Chapter 1914. Shangguan Yun's pretty face was solemn. The Alchemist Guild had a strong foundation, and the selection process could be said to be very strict. Even the most respected alchemists would have to lie down obediently when they came here. For this kind of power to have a substitute registration phenomenon, it meant that the person who did it was a real big shot. When Lin Chun received the Jade Scroll, he checked it again and again. When he saw the identity column written on it, it actually said, "The Peerless Demon Empress Lover." When he saw this strange title, the corner of his mouth twitched. The Peerless Demon Empress. It can't be so coincidental, right? In Lin Chen's memory, that unique dance posture, the beautiful face of the young lady, and the enchanting figure that could charm all living things emerged. Even though he had spent 12 years with the beauties in the sacred boundary, Lin Chun still hadn't forgotten her. Perhaps, in this world, there was no one who understood each other better than the two of them. It couldn't be wrong, the only one who could do such a thing was her. The sacred boundary and the God realm had a completely different time dimension. The God realm's time passed faster. A year in the lower realm was 10 years in the God realm. In the 12 years that Lin Chun had spent in the sacred boundary, 120 years had passed in the God realm. You little vixen. You predicted my prediction. I haven't even started to act cool, and you've already helped me cause trouble. Lin Chun looked around and saw that the surroundings were filled with killing intent, hatred, and jealousy. Lin Chun simply shrugged and said, "I didn't think that I would be exposed. Now that things have come to this, I'll stop pretending. I'll lay all my cards on the table." That night, she didn't reject me. Boom. Countless alchemists were enraged, especially the big shots on top of the tower. Several of them looked as if they wanted to skin him alive. That night? What happened that night? He omitted at least 10,000 words. He actually got to kiss the Peerless Demon Empress. Damn, I'm so envious. My brother vomited. Where's my saber? Where's my saber? The young geniuses within the pagoda spontaneously formed a human tide that surged towards Lin Chun. This group of people gave the people around Lin Chun a great sense of oppression. The Yi clan was a mysterious sacred ground that countless alchemists yearned for. There was no need to even mention the people that came from the Yi clan, let alone the young talents that had witnessed the glory of the Peerless Demon Empress. Strength was always the basis for conquering others. If Lin Chun was a genius from an ancient giant, he definitely wouldn't have provoked public anger. However, this brat was a Saint Realm expert. How did a Saint Realm cultivator manage to hook up with a big shot from the Yi clan? This kind of feeling was as if an ordinary boy had hooked up with a peerlessly beautiful rich woman. What kind of virtue did he have? On a certain floor of the tower, the cold and beautiful Miss Qin took a sip of the divine wine and looked down at the people below. Miss Qin shook her head and laughed. This is the man who made Yi Qingwu personally come? Disappointing, too disappointing. What does a Saint Realm expert have that is worthy of her attention? No matter how strong a Saint Realm expert was, he was still a Saint Realm expert. Not to mention that this was the Alchemist Guild. Your alchemy skills are everything. On the next floor of the pagoda. What did you say? An elegant and handsome alchemy genius was so angry that his face was crooked. He lost all his poise and stared at Lin Chun. What are you doing? Lin Chun laughed mockingly. Your eyes are staring like a cow's egg. This is the Alchemist Guild. Could it be that you can do me? You. All the geniuses were furious. Lin Chun rubbed his chin with a playful expression and said with a smile, I like to see your faces when you are unhappy but unable to kill me. You want to hit me? Come on, come on. Hit me? I can even give you a handicap of both my hands. Is that not enough? I can even give you a handicap of both my legs and a spear. So annoying. How did you guys survive when you're so cowardly? I've already put my face in front of you and you don't dare to hit me? God Slayer innate skill prompt. The number of hostile targets towards the host is increasing. True God cultivation. 91, 93, 99. Lin Chen inadvertently smiled. Since you want to cause trouble, then let the storm come more fiercely. If anything happened, then we'll just have to start a war. Shui Jianming stared dumbfoundedly at Lin Chen, who was openly provoking all the alchemists in the Pill Tower. This combination of punches had stunned him. Did he not know that he had angered everyone? Why was he seeking death like this? Shang Guanyun said indifferently, "Young Master Shui, don't think about it. It's still a mystery of the human race that he's not dead yet." So handsome. Ji Lan looked at Lin Chen's back with admiration as he made a ruckus. Shang Guanyun looked at her in shock. This kind of behavior could be called handsome? What was wrong with little girls these days? Ji Lan had been timid since she was young. Her family let her go out alone to train her temperament. She had never seen such an arrogant and unrestrained behavior. Lin Chen took the registration list and left. Before he left, he waved his hand. "Not a single one dares to hit me." Many of the alchemists were so angry at Lin Chen that their faces were twisted. However, there was a guild rule in Pill City. Whoever dared to make a move would be going against the guild and challenging the rules. In a secret room on the 10th floor of the Pill Tower, the power of the spirit was as deep as the sea. When it slowly exploded between the young man's eyebrows, it almost broke the space enchantment of the secret room. "The one who failed to trap the Green God sect and ruined my plans is Lin Chen," the young man ordered coldly. "Ask Elder Wu to come see me. I want to change the content and the arcane realm of the preliminary test." "Lin Chen, right? I'll play you to death." Countless pairs of eyes were already fixed on Lin Chen. Outside the Pill Tower, in the VIP room of the restaurant, Lin Chen sat cross-legged and entered a state of meditation. "The preliminary test will be held in half a month. Before that, I have to improve my alchemy skills." During his 12 years in the Sacred Boundary, Lin Chen had also refined pills in his spare time. Level 8 pills were called Divine Pills. Divine Pills were divided into 9 grades. After the 9th grade, they were called Pinnacle Divine Pills. Pinnacle Divine Pills had great effects even for quasi-gods and true gods. Therefore, every divine alchemist who stood at the pinnacle of level 8 would be respected in the ancient sections. The next level was level 9 alchemist. God-level alchemist. God-level alchemists were respected by the gods and were highly respected. Even among the ancient giants, they were highly sought after. Those who participated in the main selection this time were all God-level alchemists. That's right. Lin Chen wasn't here to participate in the preliminary test. He was here to pass the main selection and obtain the position of a guest elder. To Lin Chen, the preliminary test was at most a warm-up. His goal was to compete with other God-level alchemists in the main selection. Lin Chen muttered to himself and closed his eyes to meditate. Little Fairy should have guessed my motive for coming here. However, she didn't appear to see me. That means that now is not the time to meet. This was another message that Yi Qing Wu conveyed to Lin Chen. This meeting didn't only refer to Lin Chen and Yi Qing Wu. It also referred to Lin Chen and his birth mother's Yi family. Even though they were in different universes, even though they hadn't seen each other for 10 or 100 years, they still understood each other so well. Whether it was the declining Lin family or the Yi family, they weren't giants that Lin Chen should come into contact with now. Hee, it seems that I have to become a god-level alchemist first. Chapter 1915. Lin Chen opened the system and selected the random orange-grade top-grade alchemy handprint that he had pieced together at the Sacred Boundary. When Lin Chen was in the Saint's world, he had obtained a random handprint from the handprint fragments of the alchemy handprints he had obtained after killing various true gods. Previously, his attribute points were too low, and it would take a long time to activate it, so Lin Chen decided to leave it until now. Host has opened the synthesized random alchemy handprint. Obtained the orange top-grade 8 Desolation and 6 Compatible seal. 8 Desolation and 6 Compatible seal. Use the primordial spirit or divine soul to cultivate 8 types of divine wilderness power and use the 6 Compatible seal to condense and refine pills. Once the primordial spirit is released, no one can compete with it. System: cultivate the 8 Desolation and 6 Compatible seal. System notification: the 8 Desolation and 6 Compatible seal can only be cultivated with the proficiency of the 6 Compatible seal, but it is unable to cultivate any type of divine wilderness power. The host needs to cultivate 8 types of divine wilderness power on his own before he can unleash the full potential of this alchemy handprint. Is the host sure to cultivate it? The system notification stunned Lin Chen. It was indeed a top-grade orange alchemy handprint. It was not an exaggeration to call it a world-class treasure. In the divine world, only the ancient giants and the top echelons of the alchemy guild could have it. Lin Chen's previous orange alchemy handprints were at most low-grade orange and relied on the strengthening function of the handprint. The prerequisite for condensing the divine wilderness power is for the host to increase enough elemental attributes. Lin Chen was enlightened. So that's it. In this way, if he wanted to condense 8 types of divine wilderness power, he would have to borrow a peerless odd crystal or obtain a large amount of elemental attributes. Confirm cultivation, consuming 13 million high-grade sacred art spirit essences. Beginning to fuse cultivation memories. It consumed 1/3 of Lin Chen's sacred art spirit essences. The complexity of the top-grade orange alchemy handprint surprised Lin Chen. Releasing his illusionary doppelgangers, the 6 great illusionary doppelgangers surrounded Lin Chen and sat down cross-legged. The divine light of his primordial spirit burned between his eyebrows. His main body and his doppelgangers fused with the brand new pill refining memories. Even though he was still unable to display the full power of the 8 Desolation and 6 Compatible seal, even if it was only a part of it, it was far more powerful than any of Lin Chen's alchemy hand seals. At this time, the city of Dan was in an uproar. On the first level of the Pill Pagoda, the alchemists who received the news rapidly spread it out. Information related to Lin Chen was peeled away layer by layer. At first, countless alchemists mocked him. But before 3 days had passed, another shocking piece of news arrived in the city of Dan that caused an earthquake. Saint Realm Lin Chen massacred Blood Fox Mountain? Overturned the dozen or so true gods of Blood Fox Mountain. A true god witnessed the death of all the high-level true gods of the Taichu Divine Kingdom in just 1 day? A saint actually left the capital of the divine nation after its destruction? The 2 elders of the Yu family were repelled, and Hegemon Sword Fong Xie and Heavenly Dragon Formation God Ji Longmen fled in panic? Hiss. Even the legendary 10 ultimate flying dagger Lin Zhen and Jike's Heavenly Mandate God were buried in the Taichu Divine Kingdom and completely annihilated. The Alchemist Guild had many methods to collect information. It didn't take long for them to obtain the latest news about the destruction of a divine nation. Although there was no direct evidence to prove it, discerning people could see that there was something fishy about the destruction of the Taichu Divine Kingdom. A battle between gods had broken out in the capital of the divine nation, and a Saint Realm cultivator had appeared in the center of the battlefield after the battle? How was this possible? How could a saint watch a battle to the death between true gods? There was no such possibility. It was very likely that the person who destroyed the Taichu Divine Kingdom was Lin Chen. If that was the case, his killing move was too terrifying. It would take at least a month to travel from Blood Fox Mountain in the northern region to the Taichu Divine Kingdom in the southern region without a special 4-dimensional space-time channel. Even if there was one, it wasn't something a Saint Realm cultivator could use. In other words, he only used a few days to move from Blood Fox Mountain to the Taichu Divine Kingdom, and he even destroyed the Divine Nation? This was too terrifying. Lin Chen's battle record was undoubtedly a blow to the head for everyone participating in the preliminaries, intimidating them. However, for the higher-ups, just based on this, on the top floor of the Pill Pagoda, the flower pond swayed and steam rose from the fragrant soup. A pair of slender, snow-white legs rose from the water. Miss Qin rested her chin on her hand, holding a brand-new spatial jade slip as she carefully read the contents inside. There was a trace of surprise in her eyes as she spoke indifferently. Interesting, really interesting. Everyone has underestimated you, Lin Chen, however, just this alone isn't enough. Miss Qin's eyes bloomed with a strong divine soul brilliance, as if the stars, sun, and moon had merged into her eyes. She could see through the distant void with a single glance. Mississippi, a maid's voice came from outside the door. Miss Qin lifted her wet hair. She was like a fairy in the mist. Elder Gu, he changed all the preliminaries midway. He even chose the mystic realm for the test, the Tianqi plane. Miss Qin's eyes flickered. The Tianqi plane, I remember that there is a savage and violent. Then let him be. There's no harm in changing it. It just so happened that the difficulty of the test was doubled. She could test that man's strength. If he couldn't even pass this test, he would be eliminated from the main selection sooner or later. 10 days later. Pill Pagoda's first floor, Bluestone Plaza. More than 1,000 people gathered. They were all young talents participating in the preliminaries. They were all geniuses from various regions. The lowest among them was a 9th-grade saint-level alchemist. Even in the ancient sects, they could stand alone and have a respected status. Lin Chen, Xue Jianming, and Ji Lan stood together, calm and composed. Their faces were full of frivolous ridicule. Ji Lan raised her innocent little face and asked Lin Chen curiously, "Big brother Lin Chen, how confident are you in this preliminaries?" Lin Chen said seriously, "I'm 100% confident in this main selection." When the surrounding alchemists heard this, they almost couldn't help but beat him up. King. The preliminaries haven't even started, and you're about to enter the main selection? 100% confident in the main selection? Even if you want to be arrogant, you have to follow the basic rules, right? Ji Lan looked at Lin Chen with shining eyes. She even took out a small notebook to record Lin Chen's words. Dong. At this time, the sound of an ancient bell came from the Pill Pagoda. It was majestic and vigorous, and it spread for thousands of miles. In the Bluestone Plaza, a man in a green shirt with a cold expression and a fierce temperament slowly walked up the stage and spoke loudly. "I'm Gu Lingtian, and I'm the chief examiner of this preliminaries. The preliminaries are divided into 2 stages. First, enter the trial mystic realm and obtain the herbs on your list. The demonic fog in the mystic realm will block your primordial spirit's perception. You need to find the herbs within a limited time. Second, the herbs you find need to be used in the second stage to refine a 9th-grade saint-level pill. Those who succeed in refining will pass the preliminaries and become a member of the Alchemist Guild." After hearing the preliminaries, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Refining a 9th-grade saint-level pill was not that difficult. After speaking, Gu Lingtian's sharp gaze swept across the crowd and landed on Lin Chen and the rest. Lin Chen raised his eyebrows. "Refining a 9th-grade saint-level pill will allow us to pass? It seems like there's something fishy going on." Moreover, the other party's gaze seemed to be directed at Lin Chen. "So far, each stage will take 10 days. Those who exceed the time limit will lose." Gu Lingtian waved his sleeves, and the 3 doors on the first floor of the Pill Pagoda opened. All the contestants scrambled to enter the door. On the top floor of the Pill Pagoda, Miss Qin and Yi Qingwu sat face to face. Miss Qin said, "You know that the content of the examination has been specially modified, but you didn't say anything?" Yi Qingwu stretched lazily. Her undulating curves were alluring and beautiful. She squinted her eyes and smiled faintly. "I'll return your words to you. Didn't you know that too, but you didn't say anything?" Miss Qin said calmly. I just wanted to test his strength. Yi Qingwu smiled like a flower. I just wanted to see how he would show off. Miss Qin was stunned. Show off? Yi Qingwu gave a charming smile. Yes, the kind that's outrageous. The more obstacles you set for him, the more outrageous and powerful he will fight back. Chapter 1916. The silver-white spatial light rotated like a disk, and many participating alchemists descended on the dark continent. The dark continent was like an endless star, and from time to time, it reverberated with roars that wanted to tear the sky. The terrifying beast might was like a fish dragon, and the surroundings were full of murderous aura. Outside the Pill Pagoda, a light screen appeared in a row, and each light screen reflected by the space represented the situation of a contestant. This time's preliminaries were open to the public, and there were special referees to observe. If there were violations, they would be immediately judged to have lost. The Bluestone Plaza was filled with guests from all walks of life, and even a group of big shots participating in the main selection were present. Her hair was like snow, and her hair was soft and beautiful. On the beautiful and charming face there was a bit of surprise. She sat with her legs crossed in the audience seat, and her waist was slender like a beautiful snake as she leaned on the side and said in surprise, This time's preliminaries are actually in charge of this madman, Gu Lingtian? Some old monsters looked at the woman with envy and awe. This Xiao Ruoyu was a famous god-level alchemist. She was one of the big shots participating in the main selection this time. In the passage, a thin and short old man with yellow eyebrows slowly walked over, and he frowned slightly. Why does this old man feel that this assessment site is a bit familiar? Countless spectating powerhouses were moved. Another big shot, Ji Taizong? Suddenly, a heat wave hit and everyone was forced to retreat. A white-haired old man in a red robe like rolling fire waves appeared, and his eyes were solemn as he stared at the alchemists who had just entered the secret realm. Another god-level alchemist, Old Man Blue Flame. Old Man Blue Flame pondered for a moment and said, I'm afraid that the participants who can pass this time's preliminaries are not even 1%. As soon as these words came out, a large number of powerhouses and forces in the Bluestone Plaza were moved. Someone hurriedly asked, May I ask, Senior, why do you say that? In the past, no matter how difficult the preliminaries were, only about half of the participants were eliminated. The most difficult one in history only eliminated 2/3 of the participants. A 1% claim like this was simply unheard of. Old Man Blue Flame glanced at the questioner and said indifferently, That secret realm, this old man went to experience it once and almost died inside. Hiss. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. A place where a god-level alchemist almost died? What kind of purgatory was that? This space is called the Heavenly Qilin Plane, and it was once created by a senior elder of the Alchemist Association. That plane has suppressed hundreds of primordial divine beasts like Qilins, Pishio, black tortoises, demon phoenixes, and Qiankis. Hundreds of primordial divine beasts? Everyone felt their scalps go numb. Wasn't this equivalent to over 100 true deities? The preliminaries actually required them to search for medicinal ingredients in such a damned place? Old Man Blue Flame shook his head and laughed. If it were only 100 mythological beasts, with the alchemist's outstanding perception, she might be able to deal with them. However, compared to the biggest threat of the celestial Qilin Plane, 100 mythological beasts is nothing. Everyone held their breaths. Old Man Blue Flame's eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness. The Azura King, a genius in the history of the Azura tribe, is imprisoned in this plane. Even though he is heavily injured and delirious, his power is still there. At this moment everyone was silent. The Heavenly Qilin Plane actually had an Azura King. In the Azura tribe, only the strong were kings, and those who could be called kings were the ones who prostrated themselves before the world. Old Man Blue Flame said with a dignified expression. If this old man hadn't seen a few familiar faces and perhaps had a chance to escape, perhaps no one would have passed this time's preliminaries. Xiao Ruoyu's expression was tense. How could the guild come up with such a ridiculous preliminaries? It's obvious that they want this batch of people to be wiped out. Everyone looked at Gu Lingtian on the high platform at the same time. His green robe was picturesque, his eyebrows were sharp and his eyes were cold as if they could pierce through the void, staring straight at a certain direction in the void. Lowly creatures of the lower realm, show all your ugly side. You are not qualified to touch the women of the Yi family. Inside the celestial Kylan plain, a series of starlight flashed above the candidates' heads and landed in front of them. It was a jade token with a brilliant purple light. Alchemists, this is your space jade token. If you encounter danger at a critical moment, you can choose to drip blood into the jade token. It will automatically take you away from the secret realm, and at the same time, it means that you have lost the right to participate. Gu Lingtian's cold voice echoed in the void, and everyone accepted the jade token. Who knew? Bang! There was an explosion. Someone had crushed the jade token. Everyone looked and saw that it was Lin Chen. Is he crazy? Crushing the jade token is equivalent to losing the chance to return. Only by passing the preliminaries can we save our lives. Saint Realm is Saint Realm. His brain is not normal. Some of the quasi-god geniuses retreated while cursing. Shui Jiaming and Ji Lan stared at Lin Chen's back, waiting for him to move. Unexpectedly, Lin Chen smiled coldly. Retreat? From the moment I, Lin Chen, stepped into the heavenly realm, this option did not exist. Lin Chen looked at the sky diagonally opposite, slowly raised a middle finger, and sneered. Head examiner, if you want to target me, just say it. Why do you have to do this? Rumble. Almost as soon as Lin Chen finished speaking, a sonic boom swept across the sky. It turned into a flash of light and swooped down from the sky, instantly slashing toward the contestants. A fiendish aura that originated from the prehistoric times transformed into a sharp howl that surged violently towards the crowd like a raging fire and a thunderstorm. Lin Chen turned around abruptly and stepped on the shadows of the clouds. His body was like a swimming dragon, riding on the heavenly light. He traveled 1,000 feet and like a crescent moon, he flew backward. The hexagonal star in the center of Lin Chen's palm surged with saint energy that could cover the stars and cover the moon. Lin Chen's 9 extinction heaven-burning palm came crashing down as he clenched his fist. Bang! Boom! 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 Lin Chen pressed down on a behemoth's head with one hand, and it completely fell from the sky. A purple flame demonic phoenix the size of a small mountain flapped its gigantic wings, creating a firestorm that covered the stars and covered the moon. It burned the 4 seas, forcing many contestants to release the power of their essence spirits to protect themselves. It was an ancient divine beast, the purple flame demonic phoenix. Some alchemy prodigies who were still at the quasi-god level couldn't help but gasp. This purple flame demonic phoenix's battle power was comparable to a mid-first level true god. He had actually been suppressed by Lin Chen with a single hand with the cultivation of the sage realm. Was this guy really human? Bang! Lin Chen swept out his leg and sent the purple flame demonic phoenix flying into the sky. Heaven-splitting sword style. Lin Chen's saint power turned into a sword, and he slashed down with it, using instant light split shadows. Chi! Rip! The sword cut open the top of the purple flame demonic phoenix's head, and blood splattered everywhere. The brutal purple flame demonic phoenix was cut into pieces by Lin Chen's instant light split shadows. Lin Chen's saint power, which was comparable to an early stage level 2 true god, was fully displayed at this moment. Many alchemy prodigies were stunned on the spot. Hearing about it and seeing it with one's own eyes were always 2 different feelings. When they saw Lin Chen suppressing the divine beast with his saint stage prowess, How shocking was the impact! When Lin Chen took the demonic phoenix's divine beast core and attribute light balls, he laughed mockingly. Everyone, I don't have any good point. Other than being handsome, I'm also very honest. I advise you to withdraw now if you want to participate in the competition. Lin Chen pointed at their space jade tokens and laughed. Your space jade tokens are the bait to attract these divine beasts. As long as you bring them along, these big guys will follow you wherever you go. Roar, roar, roar. As soon as Lin Chen finished speaking, strands of practically ear-piercing sound waves transformed into waves of sound that assaulted him, and they were all powerful as they shot through the sky and roared to the point the mountains and rivers trembled while the earth quaked. More and more divine beasts' auras started to appear from all directions. F***CK. What's the point of this competition? Many participants cursed loudly. There was no way out even if they wanted to escape. Only Lin Chen smiled coquettishly. Targeting? I'm least afraid of being targeted. Gu Lingtian, you're so young and don't cherish your life. You made me, Lin Chen, cry for nothing. Chapter 1917. In the face of Lin Chen's middle finger, Gu Lingtian, who was sitting on the high platform and watching this scene, became colder and colder. Xiao Ruoyu's beautiful eyes turned, and when she stared at Gu Lingtian, she suddenly smiled. It's really enviable. Peerless Demon Empress, you can actually make such a young master break the rules for you and use the Celestial Qilin Plane, which is extremely dangerous in the main assessment, in the preliminaries. Without a doubt, even if the Celestial Qilin Plane was placed in the main selection, it was almost impossible to take it out. This was a forbidden mystic realm with a slim chance of survival. Even if it was a god-level alchemist participating in the main selection, it was especially difficult to break through the territory of so many divine beasts to find or sense the location of medicinal herbs. Not to mention, there was an Azura king inside. Inside the Celestial Qilin Plane. Like a moving mountain, the huge Qiong Qi spread its wings and had a single horn on its head. Its bloody mouth whistled a terrifying wind as it opened its mouth to spit out a gray storm that could destroy mountains and split the earth. Boom, boom, boom. The earth shook and the earth veins burst open. Another 200 meters long Pishio with a dragon head and a tiger body fiercely trampled over. Their iron hooves trampled everything in their way, and they rushed to the place where the participants were descending with an unstoppable momentum. Their purple beast eyes flickered with savage killing intent. The ancient divine beasts were like wild beasts with low intelligence, relying purely on instinct to attack everyone. However, the only thing in common in their eyes was a strong killing intent towards the human race. This kind of killing intent even surpassed instinct and was especially terrifying. It was simply a natural forbidden area for the human race. Damn it, I still want to live a few more years and live happily. How can I die in this damned place? With a flash of silver light, the first alchemist to withdraw from the assessment on the spot appeared. More and more alchemists turned pale. In the blink of an eye, they were surrounded by more than a dozen divine beasts. What was the point of the assessment? They were here to refine medicine, not to fight. Let's go, let's go. There will be plenty of time in the future. I'll come again when I become a peak saint-level alchemist. This momentum is too terrifying. It's not worth dying here. See you never, dogs hit divine beasts, see you again. As the silver light shuttled through the sky, hundreds of alchemists chose to give up on the assessment. Giving up at the beginning, the almost strange scene made the major forces in the Pill Pagoda's square dumbfounded. If that was the case, what was the point of choosing? I'm afraid we'll all be wiped out in the preliminaries. Inside the Celestial Unicorn's secret realm, clang. Xue Jianming unsheathed his sword and cut off Qiong Qi's breath. He transmitted his voice, Brother Lin Chen, let's work together to open a path and retreat first. The divine beast's momentum is too fierce. After knocking back two Pichio with one punch, Lin Chun had a puzzled look on his face. Why are you retreating? Why are you retreating? This astonishing rhetorical question stunned Ji Lan and Xue Jianming. Lin Chun turned around and transformed his saint energy into a saber. He pulled out the saber, and a dazzling saber light that was as bright as day descended in an instant. God's tear. 5 rays of daytime saber light spun at an extremely fast speed. Immediately after, the saber light trembled and instantly exploded, releasing tens of thousands of saber chi fragments. In the twisted four-dimensional space, the infinite pieces of saber auras were as clear and gorgeous as broken jade. It was truly a dazzling sight. Bang! 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 The saber aura fragments shot toward the twisted four-dimensional space without any blind spots, ruthlessly bombarding all the invading divine beasts. Boom! Groups of divine beasts were blasted back by the saber aura fragments. Some of them even felt numb and couldn't stand up at once. Everyone was dumbfounded. He forced back a group of divine beasts with one slash. Did this kid really have the combat power to destroy the Taichu Divine Kingdom? Roar. A deafening roar shattered mountains and rivers, turning into a heat wave. Wherever the roar reached, it instantly burned into a sea of fire. Xue Jianming's expression changed slightly. Thousands of feet away, a divine fire qilin burned with divine light and stepped on fire clouds. Dragon-shaped crimson divine flames flowed around its body. This was a desolate ancient qilin that was comparable to early-stage, second-level divine realm. The ground cracked open, and a dark green tortoise shell broke out of the ground. Its dragon head was upright. It was another black tortoise comparable to the divine beast qilin. Xue Jianming hurriedly said, "Brother Lin Chun, it'll be too late if we don't leave now. We're completely surrounded." "No," Lin Chun said confidently. "I'm the one who's surrounding them." Ji Lan raised her little head and stared at Lin Chun curiously. Lin Chun said, "There are 6 more who are as awesome as me." Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a loud bang, and the divine fire qilin burning with divine light collapsed. Everyone went from puzzlement to shock and then to horror. Their expressions were very interesting. Heaven burning arrow. Rain and smoke. Heaven opening sword. Annihilation, star explosion. Waves of earth-shattering sacred power rushed into the clouds, setting off monstrous waves. Endless attacks seemed to envelop everything, unstoppable. Their figures were like shadows in the sky as they shuttled through the sky at an extremely fast speed, suppressing all the divine beasts in all aspects. Many of the participating alchemists opened their mouths slightly. 136. There were actually 6 Lin Chens? No, 7. Lin Chen's phantom doppelgangers appeared from different directions and surrounded them in a hexagonal formation. Lin Chun waved his hand and shouted heroically, "Dragon come!" Chi! Bang! A beam of azure light appeared and turned into a dragon claw that brazenly struck out, blasting a few shocking cracks on the desolate black tortoise's hard shell. The desolate black tortoise was knocked back 1,000 feet, and it cried out in pain. Blood flowed out, and a hint of fear appeared in its ferocious eyes for the first time. The azure divine dragon's body was entwined with reddish-gold divine light. After strengthening the ancient Aeon dragon bloodline, Lin Chen's divine dragon had the characteristics of the ancient Aeon dragon as its main characteristic. The dragon's body had become ancient and mysterious, making people revere it. Lin Chen's original body stepped into the air, and the divine dragon under his feet was entrenched. His doppelgangers were attacking from all directions. The divine dragon swung its tail, and the azure dragon's breath turned into a sword light, cutting down a divine beast with ease. The dragon's mouth spat out endless azure dragon's breath. Raging waves rolled up, and between the surging waves, it formed a heavenly prison, completely trapping all the divine beasts. With his doppelgangers outside, and the divine dragon inside, the alchemy talents participating in the competition trembled. Lin Chen had actually surrounded all the divine beasts with his own strength. The dragon's claws danced, and the doppelgangers flashed. Lin Chen's attributes soared wildly. Host has received 200 billion high-tier Saint Blood points, 500 billion high-tier Saint Blood points. With Lin Chen's current divine dragon cultivation, the attributes and blood points dropped by ordinary divine beasts weren't of much use to him. At most, divine beast cores could help him improve a little. But to Lin Chen, these blood points were all great supplements. Compared to those outstanding physique refining geniuses, Lin Chen's physique refining talent wasn't high. He could only rely on his blood points to forcefully forge his divine body. While Lin Chen's doppelgangers and divine dragon were slaughtering everywhere, Lin Chen calmly absorbed a sea of blood points as he looked into the distance. In the center of the celestial Qilin Plains pitch-black continent, there was a pillar of azure attribute light that soared into the sky. It was brilliant, like a divine light that could split heaven and earth apart. Lin Chen's eyes blazed with passion. Without a doubt, he had already seen this attribute light twice. It was the attribute light of the King of Speed, Extreme Wind God Set. The celestial Qilin Plain also had it. Chapter 1918. Outside the square of the Pill Pagoda, when the divine beast's flesh and blood splattered everywhere, the expressions of the powerhouses of the various forces were extremely interesting. The rumor that this kid can destroy the Taichu Divine Kingdom must be true. What a monster! Is he really human with such terrifying combat strength? Perhaps he hasn't reached the level of those monsters, but there's no doubt that if this kid doesn't die, he will have an extremely terrifying future. It's not that simple. Back then, there were so many amazing geniuses who killed gods and defied the heavens to become God. Their primordial spirits became divine souls before they were 100 years old, but in the end, they all stopped in front of the 3,000 great Daos and became short-lived. Lin Chen's performance was shocking. However, potential was always potential. Compared to those geniuses who controlled laws, no matter how strong Lin Chen was, he couldn't be compared to them. The old monsters present had seen too many geniuses who died prematurely on laws to become gods. As a result, no matter how strong Lin Chen's potential was, those with enough experience would at most be a little surprised and not shocked. There were 3,000 great Daos and laws were supreme. A single law could make heaven and earth crawl, surpassing any divine power. The 3,000 laws created dimensions, the universe, and all things. Only by stepping into that realm could one begin to become a god and pry into the mysteries of the four-dimensional universe. In the upper levels of the Pill Pagoda, when Miss Qin and Yi Qingwu were watching the screen, Yi Qingwu's eyes stared at Lin Chen as if she had discovered a new continent. Miss Qin's expression was calm. Up until now, Lin Chen's performance had not exceeded her expectations. Or rather, if he couldn't even break through this difficult situation, he wouldn't have the qualifications to approach Yi Qingwu. Miss Qin crossed her arms in front of her chest, her proud smile slightly trembling, and her beautiful eyes narrowed. Perhaps we'll know his killer move later. Unlike the outside forces, Miss Qin relied on her unique connections to collect deeper information about the Taichu Divine Kingdom. When the Taichu Divine Kingdom was destroyed, the relevant forces all hid something. In addition to the news that Lin Chen might be responsible for the destruction of the Taichu Divine Kingdom, Miss Qin also found out other news. The Umbrella faction behind the Yu family had a Grand Elder who controlled the laws of fire. He had personally taken action, but his arm had been broken and he had to retreat with injuries. From the information, Miss Qin only knew that on that day, a war god in golden armor appeared in the Taichu Divine Kingdom. As Miss Qin watched the silver-robed figure riding a dragon into the air, her eyes rippled. A golden god of war. I want to see if this is you, and if you are really so fierce. There were 9 levels of the divine realm, and each level was a level of heaven. The disparity between each level of true God realm was extremely huge, and level 4 divine realm was the true watershed of the true God realm. When a true God cultivator cultivated their God force to the 4th level, their God force would reach a peak before stopping at the 4th level of the true God realm. This realm was the late stage of the 4th level of true God realm. If one wanted to advance from late stage level 4 heavenly layer to perfection level 4 heavenly layer, one had to break through the shackles and comprehend a law. That's right, the difference between the late stage of the 4th stage and the perfect stage of the 4th stage was the difference between those who had grasped the laws and those who had not grasped the laws. On that day, Lin Chun was able to crush the sword of a level 4 heavenly layer true God sword god with his bare hand. But, when facing the true power of laws, he had to use the war god's spear. Although this was related to Lin Chen's body tempering foundation, the strength of laws could still be seen from this. On the heavenly Qilin plain, the blood of god beasts was everywhere. Xue Jiaming sighed in admiration. Brother Lin Chen's actions are swift and fierce. I admire you. Lin Chen casually smiled and said, Basic operations Wu Lu. The pure strength of Lin Chen's flesh shell continued to rise. His avatar was rapidly refining the blood vitality of over 20 god beasts. As they saw Lin Chen's flesh shell becoming increasingly tyrannical, some alchemists who hadn't left yet realized that this man was not an existence they could provoke. Basking in Lin Chen's glory, the remaining alchemists quietly left, heading to the heavenly Qilin plain to collect the herbs they needed. Ji Lan angrily said, These people, Big Brother Lin Chen helped them, but they didn't even say a word of thanks. Lin Chen smiled and said, It doesn't matter. Those who should be eliminated will be eliminated, and those who should survive will also survive. There were also talented alchemists like Xue Jianming who had signed up for the preliminaries. Even if Lin Chen hadn't helped them, they would still have found a chance to break through. As for those fellows who were so scared that their legs turned to jelly, they wouldn't be so lucky when they encountered the next god beast. Let's go. We'll go look for herbs first. The divine dragon flew, carrying everyone and rushing towards the direction of the attribute light. Wow! This was the first time Ji Lan sat on the back of a divine dragon like the ancient cosmic dragon. She was so excited that her face flushed red and her eyes shined. Lin Chen looked at her with interest. This little girl, with his eyesight, he couldn't even see through her primordial spirit. She wasn't simple at all. Ji Lan suddenly excitedly pointed in a direction. Hey, there's an 8-edged profound holy fruit over there. Lin Chen said in surprise, You can sense it from so far away? In the heavenly Qilin plain, the pitch-black continental plates released a natural pressure that had an extremely strong suppressive effect on the primordial spirit. It was as if several mountains were pressing down on the primordial spirit, limiting the range of one's perception. It was because of this pressure that the god beasts that occupied this place all year round didn't have high intelligence. Even though Lin Chen's primordial spirit was supported by the Tai Heaven concealing art, he could only sense an area of 10,000 feet at most. In the direction Ji Lan pointed in, at least as far as his eyes could see, there was nothing within 20,000 feet. This girl's primordial spirit perception was much stronger than his. Lin Chen followed the direction she pointed in, and the divine dragon swooped down. Above the waterfall, there was an ancient tree with an 8-edged profound holy fruit that flickered with silver light. It was beautiful and had silver patterns flowing around it. Lin Chen sighed in surprise and then smiled. Let's each take what we need. Next, we'll divide all the treasures we find into 3 portions. And Ji Lan nodded happily. She used a small jade knife to cut open the tree vein and took the 8-edged profound holy fruit. How can I accept this? Xue Jiaming hurriedly waved his hand and said, I don't have Miss Ji Lan's ability, and I don't have Brother Lin Chen's battle prowess. Lin Chen patted his shoulder and interrupted him. He smiled and said, But you have your own unique handsomeness. Take it. If you're polite with me, you're flattering me. Shui Jianming felt helpless and grateful at the same time. He didn't expect to meet such a noble person like Lin Chen in this selection. Let's go. There should be a lot of good things waiting for us. Lin Chen laughed and the divine dragon flew up. Ji Lan closed her eyes and carefully sensed. There are also 3 dragon blood purple golden vines on the cliff in the distance. There are also blazing sun divine fruits there. There were too many. The treasures of the celestial Qilin plain were like a treasure mountain. Many of them were treasures that had been tainted with divinity. There were even level 9 divine materials. Some treasures had been nurtured by divine beasts and possessed divinity. Their effects were far superior to ordinary level 8 divine materials. Then, Lin Chen went in the direction of the attribute light. In 4 days, he actually obtained more than 100 divine materials, and the designated herbs needed for the selection test had already been collected. There were even 25 level 9 divine materials. After dividing them up, the total value was more than 300 substandard divine jades, which directly exceeded the value of Lin Chen's total wealth. It was simply an exploding harvest. Even the divine tier alchemists outside the pill tower were in awe. They were so envious that they almost wanted to go in and explore themselves. That's right, danger and opportunity coexisted. The number of divine beasts in the celestial Qilin plane was indeed terrifying. But how could a space-time plane that had nurtured so many divine beasts be an ordinary plane mystic realm? The celestial Qilin plane was indeed an extremely dangerous mystic realm, but if one could withstand the pressure of a large number of divine beasts, then the opportunities inside would far surpass other planes and be comparable to a paradise of fortune. To put it bluntly, even if it was the main selection, it was extremely difficult to provide so many resources to the participants. This was a complete misjudgment. Lin Chen couldn't help but sigh. I thought that because I was too handsome I would be targeted everywhere. Who would have thought that Examiner Gu Lingtian would be so considerate of me, risking his reputation to send me to this fortune's grotto heaven? What a kind man! Lin Chen looked up to the sky and roared. Mr. Gu Lingtian, although I, Lin Chen, am not gay, I still want to say this. Daddy loves you. Outside the pill tower, when Lin Chen's Daddy loves you came out, Gu Lingtian's face was so dark that he almost wanted to kill someone. Chapter 1919. Examiner Gu Lingtian risked his reputation to send us into this blessed grotto heaven. There are opportunities everywhere. What is this called? This is called a great person. He is a bright light in this turbid world. He is burning himself to illuminate us. Gu Lingtian is a great person. Stop talking, Daddy loves you. Daddy loves you, love you, you, Lin Chen's voice echoed in the sky above the Pill Pagoda Square. Although it was a little weak, it was still quite flirtatious. Countless alchemists held back their laughter, not daring to laugh out loud. They were afraid that Gu Lingtian would hit them with a hammer. Shang Guanyun, who was sitting in the back row of the audience, shook her head helplessly. This guy was the same wherever he went. Ha 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 ha. Yi Qinggu, who was in the upper echelons of the Pill Pagoda, laughed so hard that her usual demeanor was gone. Miss Qin's lips twitched slightly. She had never seen Yi Qinggu like this. This vixen's usual disguise was completely gone. Only this moment was the most real. Lin Chen's bountiful harvest was completely Gu Lingtian's misjudgment. That's right. He originally thought that even if Lin Chen had the ability to fight against a group of divine beasts, it would definitely not be easy. He might even have to pay a heavy price. Violent divine beasts that followed their instincts were not to be underestimated. Ordinary divine beasts had high intelligence and might choose to retreat in the face of an unfavorable battle. Divine beasts that had fallen into a frenzy would not. Facing a human, they would only fight to the death. When such a terrifying group of divine beasts was in the hundreds, Coupled with Gu Lingtian's special divine power imprint on the space jade, it would attract the divine beast's perception and they would pounce over crazily. Hundreds of divine beasts pouncing on a saint? That scene was simply unimaginable. Gu Lingtian considered that Lin Chen might have the power to fight against the Taichu Divine Kingdom, but facing such a lineup, it was impossible for him to escape unscathed. It was even more difficult to collect natural treasures while being hunted down, not only for Lin Chen but also for the other participants. In this state, being chased by divine beasts, there was almost no free time to find medicinal herbs. This should have been what he had expected. However, Lin Chen did not play by the rules. From the very beginning, he had crushed the jade tablet that could attract the divine beast's space. What Gu Lingtian did not consider was Lin Chen's mystical dragon and his doppelganger. When an ordinary true god executed such a powerful cloning absolute art, the amount of god power consumed would definitely be a natural number. However, Lin Chen's clones seemed to be endless. He was like a ghost, and there was no logic to it. The combat strength of the divine dragon before and after the destruction of the Taichu Divine Kingdom was on a completely different level. As for Lin Chen, he used his phantom doppelganger and the mystical dragon to clear the way. Furthermore, he had Ji Lan and the other mystical girls with him. Wherever he went, he was always successful and did not take a single needle or thread. Apart from a needle and a thread, he dug 3 feet into the ground and left nothing behind. This led to a very awkward situation. He had wanted to scheme against Lin Chen, but not only had he failed, but he had also lost a large amount of the celestial unicorn plane's medicinal herbs. He tried to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. It was a loss for him to visit his family, a loss all the way to his grandmother's house. On the stage, Gu Lingtian was so angry that he laughed. Good. What a good Lin Chen. I'll see how you can laugh later. Although Gu Lingtian was the chief examiner of the preliminaries, he was now riding a tiger and could not back down. He could not specifically target Lin Chen and revoke his qualifications. Next, there would be a big shot presiding over the main selection competition in the Pill Tower. The upper echelons could allow him to play tricks behind his back, but they would not allow him to directly cause trouble on the surface. This concerned the face of the Alchemist Association. It was definitely not an authority that he could change alone. Lingtian, calm down. A charming woman in red leaned against Gu Lingtian's side, appeasing his anger with a delicate voice. This woman was the woman in red who had attempted to socially kill Xue Jiaming when he was queuing up to register. The woman in red said sweetly, "As long as he enters that plane, he will die sooner or later, won't he?" Gu Lingtian's face was so gloomy that it was shrouded in a layer of haze. "I actually hope that he doesn't die so quickly. I want to personally destroy him." In the celestial Qilin plane, Lin Chen originally wanted to split the resources equally with the two of them. However, after Ji Lan and Xue Jiaming's unanimous request, they decided to only take 5 ninth-level treasures each. The remaining 15 would all go to Lin Chen. After all, they were able to stay here and search for large amounts of medicinal herbs with ease because of Lin Chen's clone and divine dragon. Ji Lan muttered curiously, "Big brother Lin Chen, did you secretly eat some divine pill or medicine? Why has your body's strength increased so much recently? It's almost breaking through 400 million venerable one's pure strength." Lin Chen said seriously, "Because I'm handsome?" The naive Ji Lan was confused. Lin Chen said, "Actually, I was born with an ability. In this world, the more girls who like me, the stronger and harder my body will become." Ji Lan said, "I see." Xue Jiaming said, "There's actually such a magical body in this world." One dared to say it, while the other 2 dared to believe it. Lin Chen smiled and said, "Let's go, let's hunt to our heart's content tonight. Our fortuitous opportunities are all picked up by luck." They flew into the air, and the 1,000 feet long divine dragon soared through the clouds and continued to fly deeper. Lin Chen's eyes couldn't help but heat up. He was getting closer and closer to the attribute treasure chest. Perhaps he could reach it today. Almost a quarter of an hour later, the moment they entered the core region of the Black Continent, Lin Chen suddenly discovered that all traces of the divine beasts had disappeared. Their scent, aura, might of the beasts, the marks of the territory, everything had disappeared without a trace. There was only a bottomless abyss in the core area. Something's not right. In the blink of an eye, Lin Chen reacted. Boom! An unprecedented murderous intent soared into the sky and soared, enveloping the entire world. Within the 9 heavens and 10 earths, the murderous intent was like a dragon, and the curved 4-dimensional sky instantly darkened. Clone. Taishi Divine Light. Lin Chen immediately used all his clones to block in front of him and drained all the saint power in his saint acupoints to form a defense. The divine dragon's huge body released layers of golden light, which turned into a halo of Taishi Divine Light to protect Lin Chen's body and the two of them. Chi. Suddenly, an aurora as bright as day shot over. Taizhou Flash. Lin Chen instantly ordered the divine dragon to use Taizhou Flash and retreat with the two of them. Bam! 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 Daytime was like an aurora shooting across the sky. Its speed was too fast. Just as Lin Chen ordered the mystical dragon to bring the two of them away, daytime's aurora pierced through all of Lin Chen's doppelgangers, smashing them into pieces. Chi. Crack. The Taishi Divine Light that enveloped Lin Chen suddenly exploded 1,000th of a second after it was hit. Bam! Lin Chen was hit and flew thousands of feet away, destroying a few mountain peaks along the way. He fell from the sky and landed on the ground, creating a huge crater. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and his body was covered in blood. It really hurts. Lin Chen sucked in a breath of cold air. A deep and vigorous voice resounded in the sky filled with killing chi. This voice was awe-inspiring without being angry, like that of a king. Lin Chen flipped up, patted the dust off his shoulders, and sneered. A sneak attack? The earth shook and the deep and powerful voice spread across the sky. It's actually a saint. A towering figure walked out from the dark abyss, and that person said slowly, "Kid, you're the first saint to stand in front of me alive." At this moment, when the two of them looked at each other, the crowd outside the square of the Pill Pagoda exploded. Chapter 1920. Space trembled, and the abyss shook violently. It was as if heaven and earth were prostrating and wailing. The gray, killing intent that had materialized was like raging waves, endlessly crashing toward Lin Chen. Lin Chen felt an unprecedented pressure. The saint acupoint in his saint heart circulated the Tai Heaven concealing technique to resist the other party's pressure. What a strong killing intent! It's stronger than any deity I've met so far. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. What entered his eyes was a towering figure. He was 50 feet tall and had a lofty figure. His gray skin was indestructible like dark iron, and he was vigorous and powerful. Every single one of his arms was waving about like a barbaric dragon, and every single one of his arms was holding a halberd, a spear, a huge axe, a hammer, and a long saber. He actually had 4 arms. His face was ferocious, with a green face and fangs. Although he had humanoid facial features, he had a pair of sharp fangs. His eyes burned with anger as he looked down at Lin Chen. For such a long time, this king has suppressed countless deities. You are the first saint to stand in front of this king alive. He spoke slowly, his voice like a bell. Human, tell me your name. Your life is qualified to be this king's honor. Lin Chen stood upright, not afraid of the other party at all. He only said one sentence. Lin Chen of the human race. Azura King Sauron. Clang. Azura King waved his first arm, pointing the worn-out and heavy 3-foot-long saber at Lin Chen. It's been 1,000 years. A human hasn't set foot here for 1,000 years. The despicable human race plotted a sneak attack and heavily injured this king and this king's wife and son. Although this king hates the human race, this king respects the strong. Saint Lin Chen, this king, in the name of Azura King, officially challenges you. Azura King Sauron's eyes exploded with killing intent that could sink mountains and rivers. The curved heaven and earth trembled as if it was about to split open. Lin Chen sneered. That sounds better than bragging. Who was the one who sneaked an attack on me just now? Azura King said sternly. That's just an aura I used to defend myself. The corner of Lin Chen's mouth twitched. F***ck. A casual aura had actually destroyed 6 of his doppelgangers? He was forced to defend himself with the Taishi divine light. Lin Chen calmly took a step away. His target was the attribute light pillar beneath the abyss behind the Azura King. His saint energy was at most on par with an early-stage level 2 true god. One-on-one with a mid-stage level 2 true god was Lin Chen's current limit. If he wanted to go any higher, he would have to bring out his trump card of godhood. Very good. The Azura King's gaze was deep. Your fighting spirit is not cowardly. You are the most courageous and powerful saint I have ever seen. Boom. The Azura King suddenly released a monstrous, killing intent. Outside the cliff, Xue Jiaming's pupils shrank. This is actually the Azura clan, and an Azura King at that. Xue Jiaming was a sword god, but he was almost pushed back by the oncoming killing intent. He hurriedly shouted, Brother Lin Chen, the Azura King's battle prowess is on par with humans who have mastered laws of nature. His battle prowess is at least above level 5 true god. You can't fight with him. Run. Outside the Pill Pagoda's square, everyone stared at Lin Chen on the hundreds of screens. This strange scene was suffocating. It was the first time the younger generation had seen the Azura clan, and it was even the Azura King. They were so shocked by the killing intent that they broke out in cold sweat. Even though they were a plane away, they were still quite frightened. The older generation experts, despite their rich experience, had rarely seen the Azura King. Their faces were solemn. His body is like a wisdom king, and his 4 arms are like a demon god. His aura can swallow the world, and his killing intent soars. Without a doubt, he is the real Azura King. The Azura clan is one of the 8 major clans of the deity realm. Every Azura clan member far surpasses creatures of the same level, not to mention the legendary Azura King. It is said that the Azura clan doesn't enter the 6 paths or reincarnation. They are creatures outside the 6 paths. They have the battle prowess of saints and gods, but they don't have the divinity of gods. They have the strength of beasts, but they don't have the bloodline of beasts. They have the brutality of demons, but they don't have the murderous aura of demons. The Azura clan is indeed a monster that isn't a god, a human, or a beast. They are simply the incarnation of ghosts and gods. Which Azura King hasn't buried countless gods? But this Lin Chen, it's too strange. A saint realm dares to challenge the Azura King? Crazy. He must be crazy. Does he think the Azura King is on the same level as the Taichu Divine Kingdom? Countless alchemists cried out in shock. An Azura King could beat 10 Taichu Divine Kingdoms to the point that their ancestors' coffins flew. A saint dared to challenge the Azura King? This wasn't arrogance, this was courting death. He was tired of living. In the upper echelons of the Pill Tower, Miss Qin stared unblinkingly at the figure standing proudly in front of the Azura King. Yi Qingwu, on the other hand, didn't seem to mind the matter. Her eyes lit up, and her red lips opened slightly as she muttered, Hit him, quickly hit him. In the heavenly Qilin plain, the Azura King suddenly took a step forward, and the surging murderous aura that was like a raging wave swept over. Human, let this king see your strength. The terrifying murderous aura was like a pitch-black giant wave. Each wave was higher than the last. It was 10,000 feet tall, rolling up the sky and stirring up the wind and clouds. Shui Jianming and Jilan, who were retreated under the protection of the divine dragon, narrowed their eyes. Just the aura alone was enough to shatter early-stage Level 3 divine realm. Even though he was heavily injured, the Azura King's divine might was still there. Wings of the wind. Almost instantly, a dark green divine light suddenly spread out. The light feathers fluttered, the divine light drifted, and a pair of green lights bloomed. Lin Chen's figure drew an aurora and flashed into the abyss. In the twisted space and time of the four-dimension, a streak of dazzling green light flashed past. At this moment, the expressions of many experts in the Pill Tower's upper echelons changed slightly. What a fast speed! With their cultivation and divine bodies, they couldn't see it with their naked eyes. The divine light flashed, exceeding the concept of speed. It was completely a spacetime shift. It crossed the curved line of the fourth dimension and rushed into the abyss. Almost in the blink of an eye, it bypassed the Azura King's murderous aura. A sage has such speed? The Azura King was taken aback. He seemed to have sensed something and was enraged. Almost instinctively, he swung his fourth arm across the air and slashed out endless killing intent with his long blade. It was as if there were layers of a huge net. Lin Chen, who had just approached the abyss, felt his hair stand on end when he faced the intertwining sharp murderous aura. No. If I forcefully take the attribute light ball, I will be cut into pieces. Sensing the fierceness of the murderous aura, the wings of the wind turned, and Lin Chen instantly retreated to the side. However, it was too late. Boom. Chi. The saber aura was like a fish dragon. Ripples flashed and cut through Lin Chen's body. Even his Taishi divine light couldn't defend against it and was cut into pieces. Lin Chen's left arm and right leg were instantly cut off, and blood splattered everywhere. Seeing this, Gu Lingtian couldn't help but smile. It's time for this kid to die. Bang! At this moment, above the upper echelons of the Pill Tower, a divine power that was close to destroying the world exploded. Ms. Qin looked at Yi Qingwu, who had a cold expression and changed her expression in a second, dumbfounded. What's wrong with this lady? You're the one who wants to cause trouble, and you're the one who should be angry. A woman's heart is really hard to find. Chapter 1921. Chi. Rip. Lin Chen's left arm and right leg were sliced off. The sharpness of the murderous aura made all the experts outside the Pill Pagoda's square change their expressions. This kid's leg is broken. Who asked him to provoke the Azura King? He has such speed, but he chose to fight instead of running. He's courting death. I've never seen someone so arrogant. Why didn't he run when he had such a trump card? Many people mocked Lin Chen's actions. This wasn't bravery, it was courting death. Boom. 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 The upper echelons of the Pill Pagoda suddenly erupted with a terrifying divine aura. Many experts were shocked. Gu Lingtian's expression changed slightly. This divine aura belonged to his beloved, the peerless demon empress Yi Qingwu. She's angry because of this kid? Gu Lingtian lost his composure for the first time. He gritted his teeth, and his eyes were filled with rage and murderous intent. In the celestial Qilin plain, with a flap of the wings of wind, Lin Chen retreated from the murderous aura. Immortal divine core. Lin Chen shouted coldly, and his heaven path attributes decreased rapidly. A green divine light wrapped around Lin Chen's arm and knee like a cloud dragon. His broken arm and leg instantly healed and regained a new life. Seeing this, Yi Qingwu, who was in the upper echelons of the Pill Pagoda, suddenly heaved a sigh of relief and returned to normal. Young Mistress Qin's expression changed slightly. Lin Chen's injuries were healed at lightning speed? What was this? Even if it was a divine pill, there had to be a process of refining and absorbing it. Moreover, a saint couldn't possibly consume a divine pill. Young Mistress Qin fell into deep thought for the first time. What kind of power did this kid use just now? As a divine alchemist, young Mistress Qin knew very well what that move meant. The Azura King's attack wasn't something a saint heart could recover from. Even a divine body would be cut into pieces in an instant. This Lin Chen had so many secrets. What's going on? It seems like my eyes are playing tricks on me? I clearly saw that Lin Chen's arm and leg were broken just now. Could it be that his kidney is weak and his eyesight is blurred? While the crowd outside the Pill Pagoda's plaza exclaimed in shock, Lin Chen's immortal godhead healed his injuries in an instant. However, the loss of his heavenly Tao points was also greatly reduced. The Azura King stomped over aggressively, his aura covering the heavens and earth, crushing the earth with his stomp. He guarded the abyss and blocked in front of Lin Chen. The killing intent's range is too large. It seems that if I don't get rid of this obstacle, I won't be able to take away my attribute treasure chest. Lin Chen's shoulders suddenly shook, and his fighting spirit soared. Divine Dragon Possession. The moment he covered Xue Jianming and Ji Lan's retreat, Lin Chen immediately raised his hand. The divine dragon transformed into a pale green light that crossed through space and instantly entered Lin Chen's body, returning to his body. With the divine wings cloak, Lin Chen's pure strength instantly soared. His power had assimilated with the divine dragon's, and when the divine dragon possessed him, he could unleash a power equivalent to the divine dragon's power of 2.9 billion venerables. This was to make the next killing move even stronger. Man and dragon as one, interesting. I'm getting more and more interested in you. Just how strong can a saint stage cultivator be? Azura King raised his gigantic arm high and swung the halberd in his hand across the sky. Streaks of dragon-like murderous aura transformed into purple lightning that shot out from nowhere and swept across all directions of Lin Chen. The purple lightning spread like a dragon, and the pure killing intent seemed to have cut through space and time. Heaven and earth turned dark, and only the leaping killing intent was left as it charged toward Lin Chen. Divine Elephant Godhead. Facing the Azura King's endless killing intent, Lin Chen's cerebral cortex was heating up. His blood and chi energy gathered in his body as if they were injected into the rotating godhead. The divine elephant's roar shook the sky proudly. White divine light shot out from Lin Chen's palms and condensed into a huge divine elephant. The divine elephant charged over, destroying the heavens and earth, trampling mountains and rivers. Its power was like a river flowing through the earth, and a roar could shatter the clouds. The charging divine elephant swept its trunk, and a strong gust of wind rose. The power of one blow sank into the river, shattering all the purple lightning that was filled with killing intent. What? F***ck. What kind of monster is this Lin Chen? Never mind that he's hiding a divine dragon in his body. He's even hiding a divine elephant? Is he F***king human? His elephant is so ferocious. So ferocious. Everyone outside the Pill Pagoda's square exclaimed in shock. Most of Lin Chen's blood and chi had been drained, but he didn't fall into a weakened state. The main thing was still the divine dragon's blood and chi. Bam! 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 The rolling divine elephant crushed the Azura King's attack as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. However, cracks actually appeared on the divine elephant's body for the first time. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. In the past, his divine elephant was almost always successful against enemies. This time, it actually showed signs of collapsing against the Azura King. A terrifying gust of wind blew toward the Azura King. Facing the divine elephant charging toward him, the Azura King actually revealed a faint look of reminiscence. This reminds me of how I used to like hunting the most ferocious divine beasts. Chi. Boom. Killing intent surged, and a streak of purple light broke the world. Bam! There was a loud bang and the world shook. The terrifying sound waves sent countless fragments of the Earth's crust flying. mountain peaks toppled, and the air currents twisted into gusts of raging winds. The mighty and extraordinary divine elephant was actually stopped. Upon closer inspection, the Azura king actually grew a fifth arm and pressed it hard against the divine elephant's head. Splash! The divine light disappeared, and the divine elephant turned into a sky full of fragments that scattered into the horizon. The fragmented light dotted the tall and lofty figure, causing Lin Chen's pupils to shrink. He stopped the divine elephant with one hand. This was the Azura tribe's king. The opponent this time was a truly ferocious character. The Azura king was a supreme existence anywhere in the divine world, far surpassing any of Lin Chen's past opponents. Even if he was seriously injured, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. If he wanted to kill him, Lin Chen probably only had one trump card: the Golden Battle God set. However, the Golden Battle God set was only 4% charged now, and it would be reduced every time it was used. Lin Chen's best target for using the Battle God set was an opponent with a divine weapon. However, although the Azura King's weapon was made of divine metal, it wasn't a divine weapon. Who knew how much set essence it had? Just as Lin Chen was about to fight seriously, the power in his body surged endlessly, and the fatigue from using the divine elephant divine core disappeared completely. Is this the Yin-Yang dragon bloodline? No. Immortal divine core? That's not right either. Lin Chen's face was full of surprise. His cultivation and pure power were rising steadily with an unstoppable momentum. A divine light that only he could see bloomed above Lin Chen's head. The divine core fragments in his body spun rapidly, and Lin Chen's power surged endlessly. His pure power temporarily broke through 3 billion, 4 billion, 5 billion supreme powers. His saint acupoint cultivation was also strengthened by the divine core's light, and it was more than twice as strong as before. It was still rising. Lin Chen's power was still surging. Everything happened so suddenly that Lin Chen only reacted now. The moment he saw the system screen, he was overjoyed. Divine Core Fragment. Azura's natural enemy is still active. Enemy target: Azura King. The Divine Core is still active. When the battle continues, the host's power, cultivation, and realm will be greatly increased temporarily. It was the Energy Divine Core Fragment, Azura's natural enemy, that Lin Chen had obtained previously. At this time, a strange light flashed across Azura King Sauron's ferocious face, and he shouted with a powerful aura, "Human Lin Chen, is that all you have? Don't disappoint me." Lin Chen's lips curled upward. "As you wish, Azura King." After saying that, a piece of shining green armor appeared in his palm, and Lin Chen quickly put it on. Host used the ultimate Wind God set. Wind God Right Vambrace, increasing all attributes of the host. The King of Speed versus the Azura King. Chapter 1922. As the Shura's Predator's divine spark rotated rapidly, Lin Chen's body was filled with unprecedented power. His flesh shell seemed to be filled with vitality, and his saint power seemed to be continuously transmitted from the divine spark fragment. Lin Chen's saint power broke through to 10 billion at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it was still soaring. Lin Chen's cultivation base and saint power had not broken through, but his saint power had increased by more than 20 times. The Shura's Predator's divine spark would continue to activate when an Ashura tribe member was hostile to the host. The stronger the hostile target, the stronger the effect. This was an indescribable feeling. It was different from the excitement of the God Slayer talent that had a time limit, and it was different from the destructive feeling of the ultimate heaven-defying talent. It was more like an endless feeling of sinking deeper and deeper. However, Lin Chen's opponent this time was not an ordinary Ashura tribe member, but a former Ashura king. The divine spark fragments effect was not enough. It's time for it to blossom and bear fruit. Let's see how strong my King of Speed is. Then, the moment the wind god's right vambrace appeared, Lin Chen put it on. Host has used the ultimate wind god set, wind god's right vambrace, increasing all attributes of the host. Host has used the wind god's wings and wind god's right vambrace at the same time, triggering the King of Speed set effect. Host has received gift of the divine wind. All attributes of the host increase 10 times, 30 times, 60 times, 100 times. Rumble. A green whirlwind formed in an instant, stirring up the clouds and changing heaven and earth. Streaks of green light crisscrossed across the sky. Lin Chen, with the wind god's wings, stepped on the green whirlwind, and his whole body slowly floated in the air. At that moment, all the true gods who saw the sudden change in the light screen had an illusion. Lin Chen seemed to have transformed into a handsome wind god with long hair draped over his shoulders. His figure flashed past. Gu Lingtian stared at the whirlwind under Lin Chen's feet. Wind laws of nature? No. It's very thin, but it seems to be more powerful than wind laws of nature. Lin Chen felt as if his whole body, no, all of his senses had become light. It was as if all of his strength, cultivation base, and saint energy could be used hundreds and thousands of times with a single thought. This is... Lin Chen looked at his palm in shock. The King of Speed, the ultimate god of wind set. If the Golden Battle God set gave Lin Chen supreme invincibility and pure strength that could crush everything, then the Golden Battle God set gave Lin Chen what the Extreme Wind God set brought was extreme speed that transcended all concepts. This kind of godly speed was all-encompassing. It was not just a simple increase in speed. It was a completely different concept from fast movement technique. The Azura King looked at Lin Chen in shock. To think that a human of the saint state could evolve once more. Lin Chen mocked, "Azura King, are you surprised? Are you surprised?" The Azura King said arrogantly, "Lin Chen of the human race, do you want to see the history of the Azura tribe?" Lin Chen smiled faintly. "I've only heard of the legends of dark horses." Boom. As soon as he said that, time and space trembled. Mountains and rivers collapsed. Both sides attacked at the same time. Azura King Sauron gathered his killing intent and smashed down with his hammer. His killing intent penetrated the earth and exploded like waves of air, sweeping everything on the ground and crushing toward Lin Chen. At the same time, the Azura King's saber-wielding arm swung in the air, slashing out dazzling saber aura that blocked everything. The Azura King's attacks were everywhere in the sky and on the ground. Lin Chen was fearless. Under the premise that his pure strength and cultivation base had increased explosively, he wore the God of Wind fist and punched out. It was a punch that seemed to have no energy at all. Lin Chen's shoulders shook as he swung wildly and punched out with godly speed. In an instant, the sky was filled with fist shadows that shone with green light and divine splendor. Every punch was filled with the purest strength and nine-colored saint power. It clashed head-on. Chi. Bang. 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 All the attacks in the sky and on the ground were destroyed in an instant. Almost in an instant, Lin Chen had punched out more than 100 times. And every punch was with all his strength. Even Lin Chen himself was shocked. Theoretically speaking, this was almost impossible. To unleash a full power attack that perfectly fused saint power and pure strength, one could only do it with all their might. But to unleash 100 times in an instant was simply impossible. It was even difficult to do it twice. The ultimate God of Wind set was simply a monster-like state. Not only. It's not just the ultimate God of Wind set's effect. There's also the effect of Azura's nemesis divine core. For Lin Chen to be able to unleash such a monstrous attack, other than the effect of the King of Speed, there was also the Azura's nemesis divine core fragment that continuously increased his ability. Chi. A red glow appeared, and the halberd-wielding Azura King descended from the sky, smashing his halberd toward Lin Chen. The Azura King was never careless in a challenge. He was almost certain that Lin Chen would be able to break through his attack, so he took action in advance. Lin Chen's feet stepped on the green light whirlwind, and his body flashed like a flash of light, dodging the attack effortlessly. Boom! The Azura King's halberd struck the air, and the tip of the halberd pierced through the ground, sinking into the earth. He was filled with shock. Lin Chen actually had such godly speed. This dodging speed wasn't just pure speed. Even the reaction speed of the primordial spirit had to be extremely fast to achieve it. Without the realm of the divine soul, it was almost impossible to react to that halberd. Bang! A green light divine fist with unparalleled ferocious force was unleashed at lightning speed. Dozens of punches were unleashed in an instant, all of them landing on the Azura King's back. At the same time that he dodged the attack, Lin Chen actually flashed behind him. This speed wasn't just the speed. It was also the speed at which his body and cultivation revolved. The speed at which Lin Chen circulated his saint power was more than 100 times faster than usual. Even the speed at which Lin Chen controlled his primordial spirit was 100 times faster. For example, when Lin Chen normally used an orange-grade battle technique, he needed half a breath to circulate his saint power. Now it was 100 times faster. Using any attack, he could unleash the highest firepower in the blink of an eye. Using this godly speed in battle was simply monstrous. In the past, Lin Chen didn't even dare to think about this. Boom! The air stirred and the saber light tore apart. The Azura King's many arms slashed at the waist, and with a boom, it shattered Lin Chen's afterimage. Swoosh! 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 Green light flashed continuously, and Lin Chen's afterimages surrounded the Azura King like hurricanes and tornadoes. They punched the Azura King hard. The Azura King went all out, as if activating some bloodline ability. His strength soared, and the speed at which he waved his weapon and his killing intent increased by 30%. The saber light and halberd shadows flashed and collided with Lin Chen's afterimages. Bang! 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 The two of them fought from the sky to the ground, and then from the abyss to outside the gorge. A green light and a purple light intersected at lightning speed, colliding and killing at extreme speed. The human and Azura fought until the heavenly Qilin plain kept shaking, and the peaks in the core area were reduced to ruins. Xue Jianming and Ji Lan retreated again and again. They were stunned by the battle that was almost invisible to the naked eye. Outside the Pill Pagoda Square, the experts from different forces all stood up and stared at the screen in shock. Their mouths twitched, and their brows trembled. Gu Lingtian's facial muscles twitched, and a trace of astonishment appeared on his cold face for the first time. F***ck, there's such a thing? This was a duel that had never been seen before. Lin Chen, with his saint cultivation, was actually fighting the Azura King Sauron head-on, and they were evenly matched? In the eyes of all the gods, there had never been a human who could do this since ancient times. Chapter 1923. Whether it was the Wind God's armor or the Azura's Predator's divinity fragment, using them alone would not allow Lin Chen to fight against the Azura King. He might even be killed. However, when the two were stacked together, the power that Lin Chen had obtained had increased by several times. The Azura's Predator was combined with the ultimate Wind God parts, and the combination of the Azura's Predator's divinity fragment created a perfect balance. Even Lin Chen was unable to predict that such a situation would occur. Two afterimages crisscrossed with each other, and divine light burst forth. It was as if balls of whirlwinds were twisting together. When the two sides collided and fought, even the space barrier was shattered. Fists shook the sky, and saber light and halberd shadows slashed wildly. The two afterimages fought back and forth continuously, entering a white-hot stage. The Azura King looked up and roared. "Ha! Great, this is too great!" Lin Chen laughed heartily. "Awesome, really awesome!" In the fierce battle, The Azura King and Lin Chen actually laughed at the same time. Their laughter was like thunder, and when it spread outside the square of the Pill Pagoda, it made countless strong people's scalps go numb. Crazy! They must be crazy! Are they crazy, or is the world crazy? They did not even dare to think of such a crazy scene that subverted common sense. Listen, is this something a human would say? This Lin Chen is not human. What's so awesome about you? A saint and an Azura King? How could he have fun fighting like this? The most ridiculous thing was that Lin Chen was not the only one who was feeling awesome. Good Lord, even the Azura King was feeling great. Gu Lingtian suddenly stood up, and his face was so gloomy that it looked like he was going to devour someone. The more he targeted Lin Chen, the more he outshone and took all the opportunities. It was a great humiliation. Miss Qin, who was on the top floor, looked at the two flashing divine lights on the screen in shock. If she did not see it with her own eyes, she would not even dare to dream of such a scene. Yi Qingwu whistled. See, what did I say? Miss Qin glanced at her. Who was the one who was so anxious that she almost jumped up just now? Yi Qingwu said, maybe this is just the beginning? In the Tianqi Plain, TSK. Lin Chen's whip kick was like a flash of divine light, exploding with divine power as it struck the side of the Azura King's head. Facing the counterattack of the blade, Lin Chen spread his wings of wind. Stepping on a glowing green wind, Lin Chen dodged the blade light with a punch of over 100 punches. Horrifying fist shadows covered the sky and covered the earth. The fusion of holy power and pure strength brutally smashed into the Azura King's chest. Lin Chen took advantage of the situation and continued his pursuit. He unleashed a barrage of punches, and his saint energy flowed out endlessly from the Azura King's godhead fragments. Every punch landed on the Azura King's wounded body. Pucci! This was the first time the Azura King coughed up blood since the start of the battle. When they were at Blood Fox Mountain, Lin Chen had used the divine elephant godhead with his blood essence of 98 million Zun points. The power of the divine elephant had shaken a group of second-stage divine realm experts, and the 20 true gods that surrounded Lin Chen had suffered different degrees of damage. Now, Lin Chen had used the divine dragon possession with his blood essence of 2.9 billion Zun points to use the divine elephant godhead, and the power had increased by dozens of times. Not to mention fourth-stage divine realm experts, even those who had mastered the laws of nature would have to take it seriously. The Azura King was already severely injured, and he had to stop Lin Chen's divine elephant with one hand. The impact he had to endure was unimaginable. In addition to the injuries accumulated from the battle with Lin Chen, the old injuries and the new injuries exploded, and his wounded body began to collapse. Now, Lin Chen saw the opportunity and moved again. The dark divine power that had been brewing in his palm suddenly exploded, and he slammed his palm out. Host activated God creation, Godhead fragment, consuming 10 million high-tier Saint Heavenly Path points. The dark barrier expanded to 100 feet around the Azura King, and it suddenly shrunk. Bang, bang, bang. The dark God creation gravity squeezed crazily, and the shrinking space in the barrier was squeezed out. The Azura King's movements were restricted for the first time. Whoosh! Lin Chen moved at lightning speed, stepping on the green divine wind with the divine wind wings on his body, and all the saint power in his body erupted. At this moment, all the saint power in Lin Chen's saint acupoint circulated at a speed 100 times faster than usual and gathered on the divine wind arm. You still have a trump card? Come on, brave warrior Lin Chen! The Azura King roared, and the sound waves shattered the sky. The supergravity in the God creation space shook continuously. The Azura King's power gathered, and he raised his arm and slashed down with his long saber. A large area of the God creation space collapsed. Lin Chen, who had seized the initiative, was not afraid. All the saint power gathered at one point, and Lin Chen punched out. It was as if a divine light had pierced through the air, and it went straight for the Azura king. Bang! An explosion sounded, and it was as dazzling and beautiful as a star exploding. Many alchemists outside the Pill Pagoda's square stood up abruptly. This scene was unforgettable for them. A beam of green light pierced through the Azura king's body like a bolt of lightning. A fist wearing the divine wind arm appeared in everyone's eyes, and a pair of lifelike green divine wings spread out in the sky. The exploding divine light was like a surging wave under the Milky Way, extinguishing the Milky Way and destroying the Azura king's divine body. The star known as Azura was being overshadowed by newborn starlight. A huge hole appeared in the center of the Azura king's 50 feet tall divine body. Blood was dripping, and his flesh was a mess. Congratulations, host. You have received a higher-level attribute light ball. 300 divine essence, 150 divine health, 19 divine spirit. High-level saint essence has automatically evolved into divine essence. Ratio 100,000,000, 1. The moment the attribute light balls scattered, Lin Chen, who was walking in the air, was panting. He had used up all his strength in the previous punch. His pure power and saint power were all drained, and it exploded at a speed 100 times faster. Even with the support of the Azura's Nemesis Divinity Fragment, Lin Chen was almost drained. In the end, Lin Chen grinned. King of the Azura tribe, have I, Lin Chen, let you have your fill? A smile appeared on Sauron's ghostly face for the first time. Far beyond imagination. You can still go further, Sauron said softly. Sauron's eyes were gradually fading away. I have one more request. After I die, please put my remains and my wife's remains together. The Azura king's divine body was still standing on the ruins when he closed his eyes. Although he was dead, he was still standing. After death, he still stood proudly in the world with the attitude of a tyrant. Thus, the history of another king of the Azura tribe ended. Lin Chen stared at the Azura king and thought to himself. He hesitated for the final attack. The moment Lin Chen used the god's guidance barrier to restrict the other party, the Azura king broke through his god's guidance space with a single point. The moment Lin Chen punched, the Azura king's blade was also about to hit Lin Chen. However, the moment the blade was about to hit Lin Chen, he hesitated for a moment, causing Lin Chen's final fatal punch to hit first. Chi. At this moment, when the Azura king completely closed his eyes, a dazzling divine light exploded in the sky. Lin Chen was moved. This was the first time he had seen that elemental divine light. The light was red. Chapter 1924. Outside the Pill Pagoda's plaza. Broke through? The Azura king has been killed. Did I see wrongly? Is this the Saint Realm? You're telling me that this happened during the alchemist selection? This Motherf * king saint killed a heavily injured Azura king? Many powerhouses and alchemists looked as if they had seen a ghost. Their expressions were grave, horrified, shocked, jealous, and so on. Their expressions were very interesting, especially those sects that had previously inquired about Lin Chen's news. Those true gods who had been thinking about Lin Chen had all put away their thoughts. Damn, the Azura king had fallen. If they went up, wouldn't they be beaten up by this kid? Courting death? Without the backing of an ancient giant, no one had the qualifications to have any ideas about him. Even if it was an ancient giant, they would have to think twice before making a move on him. In fact, this wave of deterrence was very coincidental. Lin Chen did not have this kind of performance every time he used the wind god set. For him to have such a powerful battle strength this time, a large part of the credit was due to the Shard of Azura's natural enemy. Against the strong enemies of the human race and other races, the Shard of Azura's natural enemy was equivalent to trash and had no use. Therefore, this deterrence was very clever. It made those who wanted to make a move on Lin Chen withdraw their thoughts. As for Gu Lingtian, he sat on the high platform with a calm expression. The moment Lin Chen killed the Azura king, No matter how much Gu Lingtian looked down on Lin Chen, he had to admit that this saint realm was on the same level as him. Even if this Azura King's strength was not even 100% and was an arrow at the end of its flight, his glory and battle strength were still there. Lin Chen could kill the heavily injured Azura King, proving that he was qualified to be his opponent. Good Lin Chen, I will make you my stepping stone. For the first time, Gu Lingtian had the intention to fight against a Saint Realm expert. Pil Pagoda's upper echelons. Miss Qin suddenly looked at Yi Qingwu and said, "Your man really has some skills." Yi Qingwu smiled and said, "This is not my man. He has an owner." "What, sweetheart? I was just teasing him. You don't really believe it, do you?" Miss Qin was taken aback. She really couldn't see through this demon's thoughts. After pondering for a moment, Miss Qin said, "He is indeed a world-shocking genius. In terms of courage, he can fight against the Azura King. Since ancient times, not a single saint has been able to do so. In terms of combat prowess, saint energy was comparable to divine energy and was unparalleled throughout history. In terms of trump cards, he has a divine elephant and a divine dragon, as well as that miraculous self-healing ability, strange wings, and vambraces. All of these are enough to approach the threshold and level of the 3,000 Great Tao. However, these are all external forces." Miss Qin stared at Yi Qingwu. "You should know that if you don't enter the 3,000 Great Taos and control the laws, you can only be a mediocre god forever." Yi Qingwu rested her chin on her jade-like hand and said with great interest, "In the past, I protected him, and now he protected me. And now I'm protecting him. I believe that one day this experience will be a reincarnation. I even suspect that he—" Miss Qin shook her head and laughed. "No, it's nothing." Miss Qin even suspected that Lin Chen's cultivation could no longer improve. As a saint, he was too powerful. So powerful that it was beyond the norm. The more powerful a person was, the more different the scene they had seen. As a god-level alchemist, Miss Qin had seen cases similar to Lin Chen's. Although she couldn't compare to Lin Chen, there were still geniuses in the saint realm who were amazing and shocked a region. But because of this, geniuses who were too powerful in the saint realm couldn't even become gods in the end. They would forever be stuck in the reincarnation saint realm. Everything would go in the opposite direction when it reached an extreme. How could there be no price for obtaining such heaven-defying power in the saint realm? The world was never fair, but it had to be equal. In young Lady Qin's eyes, Lin Chen might be brave and insightful, and he might be an innate genius. He might even be able to fight against an early second-level true god realm expert at the 8th heaven true saint realm. However, if his cultivation didn't improve further, he could only rely on external forces forever. Then he would never be able to reach the level of the peerless demon empress. Heavenly Qilin Plain, core region. Azura King, his goal from the beginning was to seek death for an opponent. Lin Chen shook his head and laughed. Perhaps Azura King realized that with the immortal godhead in front, even if he slashed out, he wouldn't be able to kill Lin Chen. Defeat was set. Azura King fought to his heart's content. In the end, he was completely seeking death. His divine body was already at the end of its tether. Being imprisoned here, However, to put it bluntly, if Azura King's final slash could be used, Lin Chen's only way to block it would be to use the golden battle god set to block, which would inevitably consume a charge. With his remaining heavenly Tao points, he might not be able to withstand the Azura King's second slash. If he didn't have enough heavenly Tao points and the immortal godhead's activation ended halfway and he was in a half-dead state, Lin Chen would really be in trouble. However, what changed Lin Chen's opinion was the Alchemist Guild. Although from the Azura King's words, it seemed that the other party had used some underhanded tactics, to be able to severely injure and imprison an Azura King here, this kind of spending was definitely extraordinary. The Alchemist Guild was far from an organization that only consisted of alchemists. There were probably crouching tigers and hidden dragons in the guild. Buzz. Suddenly, an unprecedented attribute light illuminated the sky. A pillar of light bloomed above the Azura King's divine body. Within the pillar of light, a red attribute treasure chest floated, and attribute light balls were everywhere. Red attribute treasure chest? Lin Chun held his breath and released the divine dragon. When he took the attribute light balls in the sky, he touched the attribute light pillar. The red attribute treasure chest opened, and the hexagonal fragment floated in front of Lin Chun and entered between his eyebrows. Congratulations, host. Received. Red tier technique fragment 1/4. Lin Chun sucked in a cold breath. Red tier. These two simple words told Lin Chun the beginning of a legend in this world. Even in the celestial realm, top-tier orange-tier techniques were still very rare. Quasi-red tier techniques above the top-tier orange tier were even harder to find. Lin Chun had never seen one until now. Not to mention, the legendary red tier techniques were the pinnacle of human civilization. It was a supreme masterpiece, an existence that was completely like a legend. There are still 3 fragments left. If I can collect them all, a red tier technique will be born in my hands. Lin Chen's eyes were burning with passion. However, there was still a long way to go before he could get a complete red tier technique. He should not be blindly excited. System reminder: Extreme Wind God set, Wings of Wind God charge, 19%, Wind God right vambrace charge, 1%. Severely insufficient. Lin Chen's mouth twitched. Set attributes were always lacking. Consumed remaining set essences to make up for it, 199 million mid-level set essences. Wings of Wind God charge, 60%. Wind God right vambrace charge, 40%. Hosts remaining mid-level set essences, 120 million points. After recovering the 2 pieces of the Wind God set painfully, Lin Chun took away all the attribute light balls. Suddenly, he turned around and looked at the sky where his divine spirit was floating. The direction he was looking at happened to be the direction of the Pill Pagoda Square. First, it was a calm gaze. Then, Lin Chun smiled knowingly. That smile was playful and mocking. It was as if he was saying, "Sorry, your plan failed again. I showed off my skills again. I became stronger again, and I became more flirtatious." Gu Lingtian, an old kind person. Chapter 1925. When the Azura King died, the divine dragon absorbed most of the blood chi attributes that were dropped by the Azura King. Lin Chen then jumped into the abyss. The divine dragon had already swallowed a large number of divine beast cores. This time, it had obtained a large amount of blood chi attribute. It was certain that it would break through the realm of 3 billion venerable power. The abyss guarded by the Azura King was the place where he had fought. It was also the source of the attribute light. When the divine dragon took the attribute points, it quickly absorbed them into Lin Chen's body to refine the blood chi attribute. A piece of substandard divine jade appeared in his palm. Lin Chen used his heart sutra to absorb it. The blood chi and saint power in his body were quickly replenished. Absorbing divine jade directly was a luxury for ordinary true gods. However, for Lin Chen, who had the Scarlet Fairy and 2 supreme-grade spiritual plants, it was a piece of cake. When Lin Chen jumped into the abyss, he chased after the source of the attribute light. Finally, at the bottom of the endless abyss, in a cold and silent place, a figure lay quietly on a carved stone platform. She looked like a woman. She had 4 arms and eyebrows like the moon. Her face was pale and beautiful. She lay quietly on the stone platform. It was a dead Azura tribe member, and a female one at that. I see. So this is the wife that the Azura King mentioned. Lin Chun had heard that the representative of the Azura tribe had 3 heads and 6 arms. They were the incarnation of the demon god and were extremely warlike. The Azura king had used the power of his fifth arm before he died. This dead female Azura tribe member only had 4 arms. This proved that they were not the strongest of the Azura tribe. The source of the attribute light was the head of the female Azura tribe member. A green attribute treasure chest floated above her head. The green light swirled around the treasure chest like a whirlwind. Lin Chen reached out and touched the treasure chest. When the treasure chest opened, a host has obtained the Wind God Armor Set treasure chest. Obtained. Extreme Wind God Armor Set Part. Wind God Left Vambrace. Charge 0%. Wind God Left Vambrace. He had already collected 3 pieces of the King of Speed armor set. Lin Chen smiled. It is indeed the King of Speed. Not only is it the fastest, but it is also the fastest among all the armor sets. Host consumed 100 million intermediate set essence points. Wind God Left Vambrace charge 55%. With another piece of the ultimate Wind God set in hand, Lin Chen even felt a little grateful to Gu Lingtian for being so kind to him. What a good person! He was really a good person. Done. Let's finish collecting my target. Then I'll plunder another wave of heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Let's not talk about profiteering. Lin Chen soared into the air. His clones buried the Azura king's body beside his wife before rushing out of the abyss. Brother Lin Chen, you're all right? At the edge of the cliff, Xue Jiaming was completely moved when he saw Lin Chen's lively appearance. To be able to survive after exchanging blows with the Azura king, this battle achievement was simply heaven-defying. However, when Xue Jiaming released his sword intent perception and discovered that the Azura king's aura had completely dissipated, his expression changed even more. He couldn't have killed the Azura king, right? Xue Jiaming was shocked and wanted to say something. Brother Lin Chen, Lin Chen smiled slightly. Brother Xue, calm down. It's just a normal operation. Xue Jiaming. Brother, you're really amazing. Meanwhile, Jilan's little eyes were twinkling like little stars. She worshipped and admired Lin Chen. Big brother Lin Chen, you're so strong. Lin Chen said to the little girl in all seriousness, my spear technique is stronger. Jilan was truly puzzled. What do you mean? Lin Chen smiled casually. You'll understand when you grow up. You don't need to know these things now. Let's continue to plunder. Oh no, look for heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Lin Chen soared into the air. The two of them followed behind Lin Chen. With Jilan's powerful and unique senses, the 3 of them ran amok in the celestial Qilin plain without fail. In the next few days, not only did Lin Chen collect the designated medicinal herbs, but he also obtained 40 stage 9 divine grade heavenly materials and earthly treasures. His wealth skyrocketed. Buzz. 10 silvery white pillars of light bloomed between heaven and earth and descended upon the celestial Qilin plain. Gu Lingtian's cold voice spread everywhere. On the last day of the assessment, participants who feel that they have completed the requirements and missions can enter the teleportation point and head to the next stage of the assessment. No more waiting for you if you're late. Gu Lingtian's announcement caused many alchemists who were still struggling in the celestial Qilin plain to despair. Although the aftermath of Lin Chen and the Azura King's battle had frightened and intimidated many divine beasts, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for them to collect all the medicinal herbs here. The possibility of collecting the designated medicinal herbs was close to 0. Why, this is my 3rd time participating in the preliminaries, and I'm actually involved in this year's preliminaries, son of AB*TCH. If I had visited the brothels a few more times back then, I wouldn't have been so stupid as to participate in this lousy thing. The Alchemist Association is a bunch of idiots. Screw your mother. Who the F*CK put people in a mystic realm where divine beasts roam everywhere in the preliminaries. They're 2 F*King bullies. The group of alchemists left while cursing and finally chose to forfeit. This time's preliminaries were indeed unprecedentedly difficult. More than 1,000 people entered the preliminaries, and after being surrounded by the divine beasts at the beginning, 3/4 of them ran away directly. There were even those who were hesitant and were torn to pieces by the divine beast. And the last remaining group of people hid here and there. What the hell was the assessment? At this time, in the western spatial light pillar, Lin Chen and the other two appeared, walking with light steps and talking cheerfully. Many alchemists were so angry that their teeth itched and their jealousy overflowed. So angry! Why did only the 3 of them pass? They couldn't beat them in a fight, and they didn't dare to scold them. And this kid was also a Saint Stage cultivator. The contrast was too great. A Saint Stage cultivator could pass the preliminaries, but the geniuses of the various major sects could only slack off. It was too F***ing infuriating. After Lin Chen and the others entered the teleportation point, there were only a few who completed the preliminaries. For a time, there were not even 15 alchemists who entered the teleportation point. When the alchemists stepped into the teleportation point, the light screen outside the Pill Pagoda Square changed into the appearance of the main hall. With Lin Chen as the leader, more than a dozen alchemists stopped in the main hall. With a boom, countless pill furnaces floated in the air. It was actually hundreds of alchemist associations deacons refining divine pills. The deacons formed seals very quickly, and all kinds of mysterious treasures were refined into the pill furnaces with their skillful skills. The alchemists who passed the preliminaries were puzzled. Why are the deacons refining pills? Is the content of the assessment to have us refine pills at the same speed? Or is it to refine the same kind of pill? While everyone was puzzled, only Lin Chen increasingly felt that the content of the second preliminaries would be even more difficult. Seeing Ji Lan's dignified expression, Lin Chen smiled and said, "Oh, you also think it will be very difficult?" "Yes." Ji Lan's answer was simple and straightforward. Lin Chen looked at her in surprise. When it came to refining pills, her temperament and expression completely changed. The timidity and shyness of the past were completely gone. What was left was only a young girl with the demeanor of a grandmaster. Xue Jianming muttered, "I'm afraid the content of the preliminaries this time will also be unprecedentedly difficult." Lin Chen smiled faintly. Unprecedentedly difficult? Why do I feel that it's unprecedentedly difficult? Chapter 1926. The second part of the preliminaries that the alchemists heard was about refining a 9th-grade Saint pill, but why would the Alchemist Guild's deacons be refining pills here? Outside the Pill Tower Square, many alchemists were confused. Even with their experience, they couldn't understand what Gu Lingtian was trying to do this time. Participants. Gu Lingtian's voice entered the preliminaries hall. As a first-class alchemist, you must always remember the rules of alchemy. If you don't even have the ability to respond to emergencies, you will never be able to peek into the ultimate realm of alchemy. Therefore, the content of this preliminary assessment is to verify your emergency measures and responses to emergencies. Gu Lingtian's announcement made many alchemists feel uneasy. The content of the second preliminary assessment is that you need to take over alchemy. Gu Lingtian's words stirred up 1,000 waves. You can choose any of the deacons within your sight to refine the pills. The pill recipe will be placed in front of them. Before they finish refining the pills, you will need to take over the pills they refine. Furthermore, you can add the medicinal ingredients you just obtained into the pill refining process. There is only one chance you can't fail. The time limit is 30 days. Only when the pills you take over are successfully refined into a 9th-grade Saint pill will you pass the assessment. Outside the Pill Tower Square, when the divine-grade alchemist Xiao Ruoyu heard the content of the assessment, she instantly stood up and looked straight at Gu Lingtian. "Head examiner, why did you propose such an outrageous assessment?" Among those who passed the first round, there was also Xiao Ruoyu's direct disciple. The most important thing was that this assessment was not at the level of the preliminaries at all. Old Man Blue Flame couldn't help but ask. Now is the age of the young, why is the guild in a hurry to pick off the shoots? Ji Taizong cupped his fists and said, Please give these young people who have stood out a little hope. Gu Lingtian looked down at everyone with contempt, and the coldness in his eyes shocked countless alchemists. Are you the examiners, or am I the head examiner? You haven't even passed the main selection and you want to teach me how to do things? Gu Lingtian shocked the crowd, and the power of the Alchemist Guild was fully displayed. Sigh, what a pity for these young people. All the divine-grade alchemists sat back down. Inside the upper echelons of the Pill Tower, several obscure and hoarse voices were talking to each other. Isn't it too much to let this kid do whatever he wants? It's just one less alchemist in the preliminaries. My guild doesn't lack such people. I've always known that Gu Lingtian has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. It's just as I expected. If I can borrow Gu Lingtian to test that little fellow's ability, that would be a good idea. After all, he's the target of that woman from the Yi family. At the mention of the Yi clan, the voices of the other elders suddenly fell silent. It was as if he had come into contact with some unreachable existence. He didn't dare to say anything more. At the very least, if this kid really has the strength, then he really has the possibility of resolving that matter. The reason Gu Lingtian dared to be so arrogant and despotic was because he had the tacit approval of the few old monsters behind him. The target of the guild's old antiques was actually Lin Chen, Pill Tower's upper echelon. Miss Qin suddenly said, Aren't you going to stop them? This was obviously a test that was impossible to pass. If you speak up, then Gu Lingtian. Yi Qingwu's smile became even wider. No, this is more fun. Fun? Miss Qin shook her head. I think you really want to play him to death. The content of the test this time was especially difficult. It could be said to be an unprecedented pre-selection test. Refining a high-level pill was already extremely complicated. It was already very difficult for an alchemist to familiarize himself with a new pill formula on the spot and then refine it. Moreover, he had to take over the refining process midway and maintain an undefeated record to directly refine a finished pill? If it wasn't for the fact that they had always cooperated with each other to refine pills in a team, it was impossible to do such a thing. For the same pill formula, every alchemist's refining method was different. It was completely impossible to predict which step the other party would use, which technique to extract the essence of the herbs, and which method to refine it. If it was delayed to the embryonic pill stage before taking over, it would be even more serious. The alchemist who took over the refining process later would completely not understand the details of the previous steps and what kind of control would be used to condense the embryonic pill. If it was delayed to the embryonic pill stage before taking over, it would basically explode. The alchemists who passed the first round of pre-selection were at least 9th grade Saint grade alchemists. But in the face of this level of difficulty, it was completely not enough. Because the pill that had to be taken over midway was also a 9th grade Saint grade pill. Unless it was a 7th grade Saint grade pill and below, there was still a chance. Or if one was familiar with the pill formula's contents in advance, perhaps there was a small probability of success. But to read the pill formula's contents on the spot and immediately take over other alchemists' refining process, the refining steps and situation were changing every day. Could there be even one failure? Saint-grade alchemists practically did not exist who could deal with this kind of refining situation. Only with the foundation and refining skills of a divine-grade alchemist could there be a possibility of success in the challenge. The difficulty of the pre-selection was practically raised to the same level of difficulty as a divine-grade alchemist. This clearly showed that they were not allowed to pass. In the pre-selection hall, when they heard the contents of this assessment, the dozen over alchemists who passed the first round of pre-selection instantly turned pale. This Motherf *Ker, Even the refined Shui Jianming could not help cursing, so ruthless. This head examiner is not human. Clearly not letting us pass. Ji Lan fell into silence, the expression in his eyes changing rapidly. Lin Chen was startled at first, then he smiled playfully. So ruthless. What a pity. Lin Chen was calm and collected, his gaze looking straight at the head of the hall where the divine soul was floating. Lin Chen spoke in a clear voice. Examiner Gu Lingtian, I, Lin Chen, have always liked to get straight to the point and speak frankly. Lin Chen's voice began to transmit outside the Pill Pagoda's plaza. Finally, even Lin Chen is going to admit defeat? That's human nature. No matter how strong Lin Chen's previous performance was, it was only a question of combat strength. As for refining pills, his experience is a blank slate. Yeah, combat strength and refining pills are two completely different things. This is the Alchemist Association. Outstanding combat strength performance does not add point. While everyone was discussing, the corners of Gu Lingtian's mouth curled up, and he spoke coldly with a high and mighty attitude. What? You want to forfeit? Or beg me to let you go and beg me to change the exam questions? Gu Lingtian returned to that confident attitude of having everything under control from before. Lin Chen laughed loudly. Forfeit. Facing an exam question that is so easy to me, how can I forfeit? When everyone outside the Pill Pagoda's plaza heard his laughter, the corners of their mouths twitched wildly. Easy? You call this easy? Big brother, do you want to redefine and understand the concept of easy? Are you crazy or are we crazy? Gu Lingtian was so angry that he laughed. What are you trying to say? Lin Chen smiled coldly. There's no point in playing dirty. Gu Lingtian, let's play a big game. I, Lin Chen, will represent all the alchemists present to participate in the second round of the preliminary exam. The pills that they want to refine will all be refined by me, Lin Chen. If I win, everyone will pass. If I lose, everyone will fail. If I fail to refine a single divine pill, it will be my loss. How about it? At this moment, everyone in the Pill Pagoda's plaza fell into a strange silence after hearing Lin Chen's speech. Chapter 1927. Even Shangguan Yun, who was in the square, couldn't help but hold her forehead when she heard this. Why does this guy always do things that people don't even dare to think about? Shangguan Yun thought to herself, are all the humans in the three-dimensional universe so fierce recently? It seems that I have to find time to go down and see if there is a second Lin Chen. This time, it was Lin Chen's turn to scare everyone. That's right, it wasn't shock, it was pure shock. Damn it, even if you don't play by the rules, you should at least have a plan, right? You're so ridiculous that it's breaking through the sky. Do you think you're an omnipotent god? The alchemists in the Pill Pagoda Square immediately started a heated discussion. Did I hear wrong? He wants to take over all the pills that all the alchemists need to refine? Hey, what kind of joke is this? This is not child's play. What does he think alchemy is? Does this kid look down on alchemy? I suspect he's not an alchemist at all. What **t? How can you say something like that? Is this the legendary broken pot? It's only been 30 days and he has to memorize more than a dozen 9th-grade pill recipes on the spot. Do you think it's a porn book? Is it so easy to understand? This is not on the same level at all. Not only does he have to memorize the pill recipes, but he also has to refine more than a dozen 9th-grade pills in one go. 30 days is not enough at all. Moreover, it's not an assessment that can be passed by normal alchemy. He has to take over the process of other alchemists. A 9th-grade pill has to go through many complicated steps before it takes shape, and there will be drastic changes every day. The drastic changes caused by more than a dozen divine pills added together every day are unimaginable. It's completely impossible to take into account these changes and then take over the alchemy. Whether it's in terms of time or ability, it's impossible. Even Old Man Blue Flame, Xiao Ruoyu, Ji Taizong, and the other god-level alchemists were dumbfounded. To put it bluntly, Lin Chen's request was something that even a god-level alchemist couldn't do in person. In 30 days, he had to take over more than a dozen brand new pill recipes and pills that were being refined, and he had to make 0 mistakes and no failures? It would be strange if he could do it. Even Gu Lingtian, who had always been proud and arrogant, was stunned by Lin Chen's reply. What was he trying to do? In the secret room of the pill tower, when Miss Qin heard Lin Chen's request, she muttered to herself in astonishment, "I've never heard of such a strange request." Yi Qing Wu happily clapped her hands. It's starting, it's starting. Gu Lingtian stared fixedly at Lin Chen on the screen and thought to himself, this guy, what is he planning? Gu Lingtian, who had suffered a loss once, would not easily follow Lin Chen's wishes. This guy actually took the initiative to make such a ridiculous request. He must have some tricks up his sleeve. After all, he was a monster that even dared to hit the Azura King. Underestimating the enemy is a taboo. At this time, a few old and hoarse voices came from the top floor of the guild's pill tower. Gu Lingtian, say yes? No mistakes. Although their tone wasn't heavy, it carried a dignified aura that didn't allow for disobedience. The higher-ups are speaking up for him? Gu Lingtian gritted his teeth and his eyebrows jumped. In the main hall of the preliminaries, many alchemists were stunned when they heard Lin Chen's abnormal request. Lin Chen smiled. Everyone, because of me, Lin Chen, I've dragged you into the first round of preliminaries. This second round of preliminaries is my gift to you. How about it, do you believe in me? Everyone hesitated. Finally, a beautiful woman in a purple dress stood up. I'm willing to believe in Prince Lin Chen. I'll let you take our place and fight against this unfair test. This woman was Xiao Ruoyu's direct disciple. It was because of this that she could stand out in the first round of preliminaries. True divinity cultivation, peak saint-level alchemist. I'll do it too. Your Excellency Lin Chen, please. The world is vast and boundless. Brother Lin, where have you met your match? I'll bet too. Let's go, screw him. Me too. Me too. Just as everyone was entrusting the heavy responsibility to Lin Chen, Xue Jianming and Ji Lan stood up at virtually the same time. Brother Lin Chen, I want to participate personally. Big Brother Lin Chen, I want to try. Seeing the look in their eyes, Lin Chen smiled knowingly. Good, then I wish you all success. These two people were not the type to hand over their fate to others. Lin Chen admired them very much and respected their choice. Standing in the main hall, Lin Chen said with a mocking smile, How about it, Gu Lingtian? Apart from Xue Jianming and Ji Lan, I'll take the 13 alchemist preliminaries with me as the leader. After a moment, Gu Lingtian's reply finally came. Good. If you can complete it within the stipulated time and make no mistakes, then the 13 of you will pass. Everyone held their breath. Lin Chen said nonchalantly, Don't worry. If I make a mistake, I'll pack it up and go home. If I pass and you dare to go back on your word, then you'll be smearing the Alchemist Association's golden signboard. Do you understand? Gu Lingtian said again, Remember, if you make a mistake, it will be considered as your failure. All the alchemists with you as the representative will be eliminated. Do you understand? The two of them were at loggerheads, opposing each other with equal harshness. Finally, after confirming, Lin Chen and the other two entered the main hall at the same time. Every manager's alchemy space was cut off to avoid being affected by the outside world during alchemy. On each high platform were the pill recipes that the deacons were currently refining. Smack! Lin Chen casually snapped his fingers, and 6 phantom divine lights descended from the sky. Host used phantom runes. Consumed 6 divine-level runes. Lin Chen's previous clone was destroyed by the Azura King. Now, when he used it again, new runes were consumed. The phantom doppelganger refined the massive amount of attribute points it had obtained earlier while staring at the alchemy progress on the platform. The alchemy managers smoothly controlled the changes of every herb, and Lin Chen's doppelganger saw the entire process. The doppelganger was seen as one of Lin Chen's methods, so he was allowed to use it. This was the wish that the higher-ups had conveyed to Gu Lingtian, and he was not allowed to object. Lin Chen waved his hand, and 13 pill formulas landed in his palm. There were also 13 Providence plant pouches, which contained the herbs that the alchemists had collected in the celestial Kirin plane. I can refine pills, collect herbs, and even get a rank 9 pill formula for free. Lin Chen laughed in his heart. You may make a small profit, but Brother Chen will never make a loss. The alchemists who passed the first round looked nervous, and their palms were sweating. They could be considered to have placed their futures on Lin Chen. Just as the crowd outside the Pill Pagoda's plaza was discussing which pill formula Lin Chen would read first, whoosh! The iron pill formula scroll flipped rapidly, and all 13 pill formula scrolls were opened. Lin Chen's eyes shone with a strange light as he quickly scanned the massive amount of spiritual content recorded in the pill formula scrolls. At this moment, the alchemists were stunned again. He wants to memorize 13 rank 9 pill formulas at the same time? Young Mistress Qin suddenly said. Has he always been so ridiculous? Yi Qingwu's smile was like a flower, extremely charming. He has always been so showy. Chapter 1928. Memorizing 13 ninth-grade pill recipes at the same time? At the same time? Nonsense. He's messing around. He's a crook. F***ck. Even the crooked tree in front of my door isn't as crooked as him. Young man, who taught you how to borrow pill recipes in such a ridiculous way? This kid. I'm afraid he's never refined pills before? Some of the old alchemists who had retired suddenly exploded and cursed Lin Chen from outside the Pill Pagoda's square. Everyone unanimously concluded that Lin Chen was not an alchemist at all. His actions had completely tarnished the alchemist's noble and sacred profession. He was not just messing around, he was simply messing around. It was impossible to memorize 13 ninth-grade pill recipes at the same time. The complexity of a ninth-grade pill recipe was comparable to that of an orange-grade mid-grade or even a high-grade cultivation technique. Therefore, there was only one possibility for Lin Chen's actions. He was trying to please the crowd and was messing around. Hey! Everyone from the guild, why aren't you taking down this fool who's openly insulting alchemists? Yeah. How can an outsider insult the sacred alchemist election? Yeah. Outside the Pill Pagoda's square, there was a lot of scolding. Many alchemists, led by a group of old alchemists, followed by a muscular man in black armor and a lady in red, let out an unusually loud and clear voice from the crowd, leading to the rhythm of condemning Lin Chen. Gu Lingtian's lips curled up slightly, revealing a sneer as if he had gotten his way. He was about to use this as a pretext to make things difficult for Lin Chen. Silence. At the top of the Pill Pagoda of the Alchemist Guild, an old voice that shook time and space rang out in the vast void. It was like a huge bell that rang in the primordial spirits of every alchemist, waking them up from their dreams. Whoever makes any more noise will be carried out of Pill City. The old alchemist in the guild spoke. He was ruthless but did not speak much, causing everyone to instantly fall silent. He was actually one of the higher-ups of the guild. He was definitely someone who was of a higher level than Gu Lingtian, someone who was truly powerful. The higher-ups of the guild spoke, but no one dared to say anything. They glared at Lin Chen, who was insulting alchemists. Consuming the technique essence, extracting the content of the designated pill formula and integrating it into the host's memory. At this moment, Lin Chen's mind was completely focused as he flipped through all the pill recipes. On the other side, Xue Jianming and Ji Lan didn't dare to follow behind. The two of them displayed astonishing willpower and willpower. They would occasionally record the pill formulas, and occasionally raise their heads to gaze at the attendants that were refining the medicine to confirm the steps. Every second mattered. The flow of time in the four-dimensional universe was so fast that no one could notice it. 3 days passed in a flash. On the 4th day, Lin Chen made the first move. All the pill recipes were closed by Lin Chen. All of the pharmacists who had been pre-selected were stunned. That's it? The contents of the 13 pill recipes were finished just like that? Even if it was a pornographic novel, it would still take 10 days to half a month to read the contents of 13 ninth-grade pill recipes. Are you done just like that? Lin Chen exhaled heavily. Not bad. These are all top-notch pill formulas. The divine pills refined are also quite effective for true God. It's time. Let's begin. Lin Chen laughed heartily as he spoke to the 13 alchemists. Attendants, you can stop refining the medicine now. Leave the rest to me. It has nothing to do with you. You can leave now. The 13 attendants almost became distracted. The smooth refining process had a slight pause. The pharmacists outside the Pill Pagoda's plaza were even more shocked. Not 1, not 2, but 13 deacons. He used 3 days to memorize the new pill formulas, and he actually had to refine 13 ninth-grade divine pills at the same time? Even the storyteller wouldn't dare to say such a thing. Who gave Lin Chen the courage to cause trouble here? Without waiting for everyone to react, the 13 attendants forcefully withdrew. The colorful energy of the pills violently surged, and there were still unrefined herbs all around. The attributes of the energy attached to the unrefined herbs were different. The alchemy hand seals and attributes used by each attendant were also different. In the face of this situation, many pharmacists felt their scalps go numb just by looking at it with their naked eyes, not to mention personally taking over. The energy accumulated in the alchemy is undergoing a drastic change. Not good, the herbs are about to explode. All the energy will vanish. The fire attribute alchemy hand seal used by the 6th attendant is even more violent. Once the hand seal and primordial spirit power withdraw, the energy in the furnace will explode. It's over. Lin Chen, stop acting like a prick. Who the hell dares to play like this? Isn't this courting death? Arrogant fool. What the hell is this? Looking down on us pharmacists, damn it, if I don't beat this little bastard up a few times, this old man. Can you beat him? This old man strongly condemns. Many pharmacists in the Pill Pagoda's plaza saw the clues at a glance, and they all mocked and cursed. Only the god-level pharmacists like Xiao Ruoyu and Old Man Blue Flame, and some reclusive old antiques, suddenly shut up. The god-level pharmacists stared at Lin Chen, and their eyes became brighter and brighter, as if they had discovered something terrible. Boom! All of Lin Chen's phantom doppelgangers entered the venue. The moment the attendants left, the doppelgangers' eyes were as sharp as swords, and their eyes were in high spirits. The primordial spirit power was like a vast river revolving around all the pill furnaces. The snow-white primordial spirit whirlwind was awe-inspiring and dense, and it continuously surged out from the glabella of the doppelgangers. In the main hall, the snow-white primordial spirit whirlwind swept out, and the primordial spirit power rose like a tide, enveloping all the herbs that were being refined. Each of Lin Chen's phantom doppelgangers was responsible for refining 2 divine pills, and his main body was responsible for the last one. The condition of all the herbs stabilized in an instant, and all the steps of refining pills continued as usual, without any abnormalities. Many pharmacists sucked in a breath of cold air. It stabilized. Lin Chen actually did it. The 13 attendants who were in charge of refining pills really completed the steps of refining pills flawlessly. In the pill tower square, Xiao Ruoyu twisted her slender waist and stood up. Her mature peach-like exquisite jade body trembled for the first time, and the expression between her eyebrows was unprecedentedly excited and crazy. He doesn't even need to form a seal. Quang dang. Bang. The excited old man blue flame crushed the rotating iron bead in his palm, and his face was full of shock. All the god-level pharmacists stood up. Even the cold and arrogant Miss Cheen couldn't help but stand up from her seat. Her eyes were attracted to the scene of refining pills on the screen, and she could no longer move her eyes away. Yi Qingwu whistled frivolously and coquettishly. Gu Lingtian said in disbelief, "There's such a thing?" Ji Taizong, who was so excited that he jumped, shouted without caring about his image. F***ck. Motherf** Ker. This kid is actually using his eyes to refine pills. Boom. When they heard the words of the god-level pharmacists, the minds of all the pharmacists went blank. Using his eyes to refine pills? Was this something that the human race could do? Chapter 1929. While everyone was looking at him in shock, they saw Lin Chun and all his clones looking around. The herbs changed according to their gazes. Ancient seals that contained profound principles were released. These ancient seals dominated the 8 desolates and swept across the 6 directions. They surrounded the alchemy furnace and formed layers upon layers. The herbs in the pill furnace changed violently. They merged, refined, extracted, condensed, and extracted again. The whole process was smooth and fluid. There was no pause in the refining process. It was so smooth that it was like a 10,000-year veteran entering the bridal chamber. His technique was exquisite, and it did not seem like it was his first time refining these pills. His alchemy hand seals were majestic, domineering, and sharp. They did not seem like ordinary orange-grade alchemy hand seals at all. They had the feel of an orange-grade, top-grade world-suppressing scripture hand seal. Everyone did not know which segment they should be shocked from. Every segment was filled with incredulity. Those who had questioned Lin Chun and cursed Lin Chun for tarnishing the sacred profession of alchemists were all dumbfounded and stunned. Gu Lingtian's mouth trembled. Is this something that a human can do? His essence soul foundation was already terrifyingly strong. When his main body merged with the pill recipe memories, his clones had recorded all the details of the alchemy deacon's refining. It was not difficult for Lin Chun to take over the refining of pills in the middle of the process. Time seemed to pass very slowly. Everyone was in a daze. Everyone was left in shock as they were immersed in Lin Chun's ultimate skill. But in reality, more than 10 days had passed in the blink of an eye. Everyone watched as Lin Chun refined 13 embryonic pills without any mistakes. With Lin Chun's foundation, he could have done it even faster. However, each of his clones had to take care of refining attributes and refining 2 divine pills. Thus, even for Lin Chun, it still took him 20 days. Boom. Swoosh. 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 Everyone was immersed in Lin Chun's series of alchemy techniques, and they did not feel the passage of time at all. On the 21st day, in the main hall of the preliminaries, pill clouds rose, and extremely gorgeous pill clouds shrouded the sky. Whoosh. Boom. The sound of thunder was heard, and clear whistles rolled. Pill lightning streaked across the sky, giving birth to a new life. Lin Chun opened his arms, his robes fluttering in the wind as he laughed loudly. Dan come! Schwa! 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 The cauldron's lid was lifted in response, and holy light soared into the sky. Streaks of different colored pill clouds shot up into the sky from the pill furnace, forming pillars of light and condensing into pill rings that floated up and down in the void. It was officially born. The 13 ninth-grade divine elixirs were like 13 clusters of stars floating in the sky. They revolved around Lin Chun like stars supporting the moon. A legend had arrived. The rosy glow of the 5-colored clouds illuminated the area, creating a magnificent scene. Lin Chun slowly walked over. The multicolored radiance of the rising clouds scattered down, embellishing his silver robe. It was indescribably confident and handsome. He smiled faintly, looking handsome and flirtatious. "Do you admit defeat?" Regardless of gender or age, everyone who witnessed this scene was dumbfounded. There were too many handsome men in the world. However, the most important factor that affected a person's appearance was their temperament. And what determined one's temperament was the decisive factor of one's mental energy and behavior. In terms of mental energy, Lin Chen was indifferent to life and death from the beginning to the end. He had an attitude of fighting if he didn't admit defeat. In terms of the impression he left on everyone, Lin Chen single-handedly destroyed the Taichu Divine Kingdom and even dared to fight the Azura King alone. With the attitude of a saint, he took over and refined 13 ninth-grade divine elixirs at the same time. He seemed crazy, but he was bold and careful. He seemed reckless, but he was meticulous in his crudeness. He seemed to have no plans, but he was always in control. Every time something happened, it seemed to be unexpected. Every incident was incomparably mysterious. Every time, it seemed to develop in a direction that was completely unexpected. How could such a man not be captivating and interesting? Miss Qin said hesitantly. Yi Qingwu's eyes were filled with slyness. He's pretending. At this moment, Lin Chen waved his hand, and the rosy glow condensed. The 13 ninth-grade divine elixirs appeared in front of everyone in the form of finished pills. The attendants confirmed again and again. After confirming that there were no mistakes, they respectfully announced Lin Chen's results. There are no problems with the quality of all the divine elixirs. He has passed the test. In the bluestone square of the Pill Tower, countless alchemists stood up and thunderous applause sounded in an instant. Lin Chen! Lin Chen! Lin Chen! This is too exciting. I'm dumbfounded. I have no regrets after witnessing such godly alchemy skills in my life. This old man has been alchemy for many years, and this is the first time I've seen such superb alchemy skills. I admit defeat. What kind of rotten fish is Gu Lingtian? My brother Chen is the eternal god. Lin Chen is the most handsome. The single machine king is the most handsome. We killed a traitor. Beat him up. Outside the Alchemist Guild, all the alchemists in Pill City were shouting Lin Chen's name. If there was a god in the heavens, he couldn't be compared to Lin Chen. From today onwards, who in Pill City doesn't know of Lin Chen when he speaks of Pill City? Gu Lingtian, who was sitting on the high platform, had a crazy murderous look in his eyes. He had an unprecedented murderous intent towards Lin Chen. At the same time, even Gu Lingtian himself didn't know that there was a tinge of fear in his heart. If he were to face such an environment, even with his background as an elder of the Alchemist Guild and his ability as a godly alchemist, he might not be able to do better than Lin Chen. When the higher-ups of the Alchemist Guild saw this scene, they seemed to have already made up their minds and started to discuss again. In the Pill Tower, Miss Qin's eyes turned. She covered her heaving chest and stared at Yi Qingwu. "This is the man you chose?" Yi Qingwu shook her head. "No, this is the man who chose me." In the main hall of the preliminaries, many alchemists who had entrusted Lin Chen with the task were overjoyed. Lin Chen glanced at Ji Lan and Xue Jiaming without batting an eyelid. Ji Lan, this little girl, actually had a primordial spirit that was somewhat similar to the divine soul. Moreover, she had successfully taken over the refining process. Her calm and collected appearance made her seem like a completely different person. Although Xue Jiaming's expression was tense, he was also determined. The two of them would definitely pass the preliminaries. "Looks like I don't need to worry." Lin Chen gave a carefree smile and left the preliminary plane. When he entered Pill City again, the alchemists and eliminated alchemists looked at Lin Chen with completely different eyes. It was as if there was a 180-degree change. Lin Chen treated it calmly. After all, this wasn't the first time he had encountered such a situation. On the high platform, a cold gaze was cast over. Lin Chen turned around. It was Gu Lingtian. When the two of them looked at each other, there were sparks flying. This guy is most likely a true god who has mastered the laws. Now, I can only fight against a second-level true god. If I want to defeat him, I can only use the Golden Battle God set. That's not enough. I can't just use the Battle God set. If I do that, my future won't be so easy. Lin Chen left the venue and headed to the residence arranged by the Alchemist Guild. After this round of alchemy is over, I can officially start to break through to a new cultivation level. Now that I have transformed into a god-level attribute, I have enough foundation to perfectly open multiple heaven-opening saint acupoints. Chapter 1930. In a small room in the bamboo forest, Lin Chen sat cross-legged. He didn't pay attention to what was happening outside. He only focused on reading the sage's book. My cultivation method depends on X. There was a knock on the door. Your Excellency Lin Chen, it's time to eat? A beautiful maid dressed in green respectfully said from outside. She held the imperial food and served all the delicious dishes. In order to take care of Lin Chen, the guild noticed that he was a saint and couldn't completely abstain from eating. Instead, they sent people to deliver food to him. When the maid Xiao Qing was chosen to deliver the food, she was overjoyed. She came to Lin Chen's residence under the envious gazes of the other girls. The current Lin Chen was a famous person in Dan City. He fought the Azura King alone, was the king of alchemy, and was invincible in the preliminaries. Those who could enter the Alchemist Guild, even if they were maids, had a high chance of being an alchemist. No matter how strong Lin Chen was, he didn't win over everyone. However, his alchemy skills were the ones that truly won over everyone. Please come in, Lin Chen said. Xiao Qing pushed the door open and entered. Lin Chen saw the pretty maid serving the imperial food and immediately stood up. Gugugu, her stomach couldn't help but grumble. Xiao Qing put down the delicious food in her hands and covered her mouth to laugh. Your Excellency Lin Chen, the guild still has a lot of delicious food. If you like, Xiao Qing will go and get more for you. Thank you. I was so focused on alchemy that my stomach is empty. I don't have any good points, but I like to eat. Lin Chen grinned. He didn't care about his image as he ate heartily. Xiao Qing blushed as she stared at him. She thought to herself, Prince Lin Chen looks so handsome even when he's eating. He's different, a young girl in love was always charming. Xiao Qing gathered her courage and took out a handkerchief to wipe Lin Chen's face. This was probably the only time in her life that she had the chance to be in close contact with such a unique and legendary man. Although the lifespan of the human race in the god realm wasn't long, it wasn't uncommon for male experts to have one-night stands. Although Xiao Qing was a virgin, it wasn't as if she didn't know about it. Lin Chen was startled. The young girl bent down and lowered her eyebrows. Her fine black hair cascaded down as she helped him wipe the corners of his mouth. She was as gentle as water, and her rosy cheeks were dyed with rosy clouds. Little girl, you're going to cause a huge misunderstanding about what's going to happen next. Lin Chen laughed mockingly, then turned around and hugged the girl. Ing! Xiao Qing shyly cried out in surprise. She exhaled a fragrant breath, her heart beating wildly like a little deer as she leaned into his embrace. Lin Chen smirked. Why don't I eat you after dinner? Little Qing said shyly. Prince Lin Chen, why is there something poking me? Lin Chen smirked. That's my present for you. After saying this, Lin Chen took out a palm-sized destiny plant pouch. After throwing it to Little Qing, Lin Chen continued to eat. Little Qing was startled. Although he still had a frivolous smile on his face, his eyes were calm and deep from start to finish. My beauty still can't enter his eyes. When Little Qing's eyes dimmed, she used her mental energy to check the destiny plant pouch. Ah! Little Qing cried out in surprise. He actually gave her something so valuable? Lin Chen finished eating and stood up. He casually waved his hand. It's just a little toy. I'll give it to you. Little Qing held it tightly and stared at the girl's face. Suddenly, she gathered her courage and leaned forward. Her lips were like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water as she lightly touched Lin Chen's face. Lin Chen was startled. Little Qing's face flushed red. She packed her things and quickly ran away. When Lin Chen came back to his senses, he couldn't help but cry out in surprise. Damn! I was taken advantage of. What a loss! Lin Chen couldn't help but reflect on himself. He seemed to be talking to himself. Lin Chen, oh Lin Chen. You're the Alchemist Association's #1. How can you let a girl take advantage of you? Next time, you must take it back. Otherwise, what a loss. Your charm is really great, Prince Lin Chen. At this time, a cold and elegant voice echoed outside the door. Dressed in a palace dress like snow, the cold and beautiful Miss Qin flew through the air. Wherever she passed, white snow would slowly fall. A pair of flowing jade eyes emitted a majesty that made people not dare to. Lin Chen whistled frivolously. Where did this beauty come from? I thought it was a fairy who had descended to this world. Coming to find me so late, you can't be looking for a groundless rumor and want to find someone to settle it, right? Although he didn't know her, Lin Chen knew that as long as this woman was a high-level member of the Alchemist Association, she was more or less related to the unfair preliminaries from before. Thus, Lin Chen didn't plan to give her any face. She may be good-looking, but in front of me, Lin Chen, you can't do whatever you want. Ignoring Lin Chen's provocation, Miss Qin gently stroked her black hair. She was cold and beautiful. She indifferently said, "Is that so? Compared to her, who's more beautiful?" Lin Chen shrugged his shoulders. What is Miss Qin talking about? Why can't I understand a single thing? Miss Qin said, "Peerless Demon Empress Yi Qing Wu." Lin Chen held his chin and pretended to seriously size up Miss Qin. He said, "I don't know who's more beautiful, but she's definitely older than you." Miss Qin was unperturbed. She said, "You're as hard to deal with as the rumors say?" Lin Chen smiled like an innocent child. "I don't like to be pestered. I like it." Whoosh! A gust of wind blew over. Miss Qin's jade-like hand shot out a ray of light. Lin Chen raised his hand to catch it. When he opened it, it was actually a scroll of pill formulas and a jade strip. Miss Qin said, "This is what she wants me to give to you." Lin Chen said, "Oh?" Lin Chen opened the jade strip. There was only one sentence written on it. The jade strip said, "Become a god, come to the Yi clan to cause trouble." Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. Become a god, huh? The meaning was very simple. Before becoming a true god, the little demon wanted Lin Chen to not come into contact with the Yi clan. Of course, ordinary true gods didn't have the qualifications to come into contact with the Yi clan. But Yi Qing Wu knew that Lin Chen was extraordinary. If he became a god, his battle strength and foundation would definitely far surpass now. Miss Qin suddenly said, How did you refine pills with your eyes?" Lin Chen put away the jade strip and pill formulas. He said with a playful smile, "You want to learn?" Miss Qin said, "I'm willing to pay a high price to buy your medicine refining manual." Lin Chen suddenly understood. What a high price! What kind of relationship do we have? Let's not talk about money. I'll give it to you. After speaking, Lin Chen began to search for something. Give it to me? Miss Qin was stunned. Immediately, disdain and contempt appeared in the depths of her eyes. That's right, disdain. Miss Qin had seen too many men who fawned over her. She was very disgusted with such men. She didn't even see them as the same species. It was an instinctive arrogance and contempt. Originally, she thought that Lin Chen was a guy with backbone. She didn't expect him to appear in person so quickly. He was in such a hurry to wag his tail at her, and even gave her his secret technique for free? He was a man after all. Okay, found it. Lin Chen smiled and took out a book. He put it in Miss Qin's hand and closed the door behind him. I'm going into seclusion next. Please tell others that if anyone comes to find trouble, I'll give them 10,000 punches immediately. Bam! Lin Chun closed the door. Miss Qin looked down at the secret manual in her hand suspiciously. Her expression gradually became sluggish. She saw a few big words written on it: what to do if it lasts too long. Miss Qin. She flipped open the secret manual. It was actually filled with Lin Chen's signature and portrait. TSK. Miss Qin tore the secret manual and sneered in anger. Good Lin Chen. Chapter 1931. Lin Chen sighed. Hey, I don't know why, but I feel so refreshed all of a sudden. It's probably because I'm so handsome. Surprises can be found everywhere. Sitting cross-legged, Lin Chen opened the pill formula that Yi Qingwu gave him. He couldn't help but be moved. God-level pill formula, Night Rain Frost pill, created by the Yi family? Lin Chen was shocked. Somehow, this pill formula gave him a strange but intimate feeling. Night Rain Frost pill, using 9 types of water god-level heavenly treasures as the main ingredients and 97 saint-level herbs as supplements. Effect: after consumption, the divine pill's effect is mild and can protect one's life with water god power. Even if one is a true god, after suffering a fatal injury, the effects of the divine pill can be triggered and the injuries on the body can be healed. If one's primordial spirit and body are destroyed in an instant, it can't be healed. It will take some time to trigger the effects of the divine pill. Lin Chen was amazed. This elixir had a miraculous effect. Even if it was effective on a true god, it could protect one's life. A divine pill that could be used at a critical moment. This item was extremely attractive to any true god. Just this pill recipe alone was worth an astronomical amount of money. Yi Qingwu had delivered it directly to Lin Chen's doorstep. The effect of this Night Rain Frost pill is equivalent to having an extra life. I have to say, the value of this pill formula is too high. It's even more valuable than the orange level cultivation technique that I obtained. Lin Chen's immortal godhead could achieve a better effect than the Night Rain Frost pill. But this didn't mean that Lin Chen didn't need such a divine pill. Once the immortal godhead ran out of heavenly Tao points, it couldn't be activated. So it didn't mean that Lin Chen was immortal. And as Lin Chen's cultivation and flesh shell body refinement realm increased, the heavenly Tao points required to use the immortal godhead would also increase exponentially. This divine pill was also very useful to Lin Chen. Although his primordial spirit had reached an unprecedented peak, Lin Chen had never refined a divine pill. The main reason was that he didn't have the pill formula. Divine-level pill recipes were extremely rare. Even though Lin Chen had ransacked the treasury of a Taichu divine kingdom, he didn't find a single divine-level pill formula. This showed how precious this item was. System: I want to cultivate the Night Rain Frost pill's pill formula. Consumed 59. 2 million high-grade Saint Technique soul essences. Beginning integration of the divine-level pill formula, Night Rain Frost pill. A massive amount of pill recipe memories surged into the phantom clone's mind. The clone in the Providence plant pouch replaced Lin Chen to fuse with the memories. Learning feels so good. Lin Chen couldn't help but sigh as the pill recipe entered his mind over and over again. I love learning. Learning loves me. It's better to read more books. After saying that, Lin Chen took out a book. My Young Woman Neighbor. Lin Chen, sorry, I took the wrong one. With that, Lin Chen switched to another book, took out Chasing the Heavens, and activated the system. Consumed 79 million high-grade Saint Technique soul essences. Beginning integration of the top-grade orange combat technique, Chasing the Heavens. While learning the pill recipe, Lin Chen also cultivated the top-grade orange combat technique, Chasing the Heavens. The top-grade orange technique consumed a massive amount of technique soul essences to allow Lin Chen's clone to fuse with it. Practicing spear techniques late at night always made one's imagination run wild. Fortunately, Lin Chen's spear techniques were different. One was used against enemies and the other was used against women. This spear was different. Chasing the heavens is a spear technique that focuses on instantaneous attack. It can be used first or second. It doesn't have an earth-shattering aura, only a spear that has been cultivated to the extreme. One spear strike can chase the heavens, split the earth, and shatter the universe. If the chasing the heavens technique hits the enemy, it will produce a chasing the heavens seal on the enemy. The power of the chasing the heavens seal will increase with each level. The orange-colored divine light that flowed like a dragon condensed into the Saint Acupoint, forming 9 seals that were carved with ancient talismans. This seal was chasing the heavens. Lin Chen was cultivating his spear techniques and learning pill recipes. Time passed by abnormally fast. Seeing that Lin Chen was in seclusion, even Shangguan Yun, who was accompanying him, didn't disturb him. She quietly waited for Lin Chen. Time passed, and a month passed in the blink of an eye. During this time, Lin Chen only ate, slept, and cultivated. He didn't pay attention to the outside world. However, Lin Chen's deeds were spreading outside the Alchemist Guild at a terrifying speed. Moreover, the more it spread, the more ridiculous it became. What? A saint defeated an Azura king. Is there something wrong with your brain? Why do you read so many novels all day long? Your brain must be damaged. Refining 13 pills at the same time in the preliminaries and directly participating in the main selection? Challenging a ruthless person from Scandinavia alone? Lin Chen? Shocking. This ruthless person is suspected to be related to an ancient family. News circulated extremely quickly in Pill City. In a short month, the Alchemist Guild was about to hold the main selection, attracting a large number of powerhouses. It was far more than any other main selection in the past. There were star states, ancient giants, hidden powerful families, and forces from the 9-layer realm sea. There were too many to count. Powerhouses gathered, and forces were as numerous as trees in a forest. The standard of the main selection was on a completely different level from the preliminaries. Those who participated in the Alchemist Guild's main selection were all alchemists whose names shook the ancient times. Passing the preliminaries would allow one to become a member of the guild and have hope of becoming a deacon. However, passing the main selection would allow one to become a guest elder of the Alchemist Guild. As a guest elder, he could enjoy countless benefits. Even a chaotic and lawless territory like the Realm Sea would give some face to the Alchemist Guild. They would even pay a large sum to recruit alchemists from the Alchemist Guild. Of course, the prerequisite was that the alchemist didn't fear the other party's forces causing trouble. Anything could happen in a place like the Realm Sea that ate people without spitting out their bones. In short, today's Pill City was truly a gathering of big shots from all over. Although there were less than 10,000 people in the Pill Pagoda's plaza, every one of them had extraordinary origins. They were either rich or noble, overlords of a region. In the plaza, pill furnaces were everywhere. Every pill furnace was extraordinary, their origins not small. Xiao Ruoyu, Old Man Blue Flame, Ji Taizong, and the others, a total of 12 veteran alchemists, were all present. What was amazing was that Xue Jianming and Ji Lan were also present. These two had come for the main selection from the start. Where's Lin Chen? Why hasn't he shown himself yet? This old man wants to see what kind of monster this guy is that challenged Azura King alone. He wants to play the finale? While everyone was having a heated discussion, a silver-robed person stepped into the plaza, becoming the last person to enter the main selection. Shwa shwa shwa. Everyone's eyes looked at him uniformly, wishing they could see every strand of Lin Chen's hair clearly. This child is Lin Chen? As expected of the Saint Realm, such young life fluctuations. 100 years old? No, even younger. His body refinement is very strong, and his essence spirit realm is unfathomable. He's a ruthless person. The 100 clans discussed animatedly. Some young female geniuses couldn't help but have hearts in their peach blossom eyes, their eyes blurred. Lin Chun smiled embarrassedly and said, "Sorry, I've been addicted to spear practice recently and can't extricate myself." Hearing this, some old true gods laughed strangely and said, "Spear practice? TSK, TSK, TSK. He can't extricate himself from it. I really don't know." The surrounding people were in heated discussion. After Lin Chun finished speaking, he walked to an area in the southwest corner, a hint of seriousness appearing in his eyes. Success or failure depended on this. Participating in the main selection was the main event. At this moment, Lin Chun still hadn't realized the severity of some intense changes in his body. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.